screen there. Good evening, everyone. It's been quite the hiatus. I do apologize for the last couple weeks. First, we had technical issues, and then my regular job decided to get in the way last week. But, as promised, we're back, fuckers. So, welcome to the show. We have a decent panel on board so far this week, and for those who may be unaware, in the description there is a link to a phenomenal organization called 22 Kill, where their main premise is to bring awareness to the mental health concerns of modern day vets and even some older generation vets, where the biggest statistic is that 22 former service members a day, not a week, a day, attempt suicide. So anyone you know out there who's a veteran, just let them know they're appreciated. If you want to give them some funny, fucked up shit to talk about, send them this way. Bring them on. And with that, let's go ahead and bring on the rest of the panel. What the fuck are you guys up to?
As little as possible.
Looking for a damn job still, Jared.
Looking for a better job.
Well, yeah, it's always that you're either looking for a job or a better job, or you're trying to figure out a way to actually fucking retire, but holy shit, is that even going to be possible for our generation?
I got my Powerball ticket for tomorrow.
Or even get the ability to hold a job. I mean, have a job. That's my dream.
Yeah.
Get back into society.
Same here.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, being out of work. What a great idea.
Well, I hate to say it, but would be even greater as if it wasn't so hard to get the VA to do what it's supposed to do.
You know,
But
in dealing with the VA as much as I have, is actually, while I was in class, it kind of sucks. The VA liaison at my school was let go towards the end of the spring semester. And it kind of sucks, where I was actually tempted to go to the school and offer. It's like, hey, I'm a student, but I'm also a veteran. I'll go ahead and take over the position. But then I thought about it, and it was like, you know what? That might be biting off a little bit more than I can chew, because I have my regular job, plus I'd still be carrying a full course load, and I don't know if they would really like a student to be in an advisory role with the rest of the veterans. It's not something I would shy away from. It's just one of those, the bit of rationality kicked in, and it was like, what the fuck are you trying to do to yourself? Are you trying to not have a life? Oh, what the fuck? No, don't want to drop that. So, Techatron decided to join us, but anyway, so for the
Yes, I did.
For the rest of the topics, holy fuck, do we want to continue to laugh at Alex Jones and the whole notion of people not understanding the true ramifications of the First Amendment and free speech, or do we want to talk about the dumpster fire that's continuing to burn around Trump?
Well, actually, the dumpster fire might be a little better. I think the retreat of Alex, the censoring of Alex Jones and his reemergence on Facebook might not maybe be the best idea, because that's just been talked to death.
And then again, the mixing the two, his name and the word true or truth. Yeah, it has more than just one meaning in this case.
Well, to be
not good at that truth stuff.
To be honest with you, Jones has actually covered shit that has been has actually accurately covered shit that has gone on, and usually nobody else wants to fucking talk about it.
Yeah, but he basically he just does the same thing as some creationist priests do when they want to convince someone of their strange notions. They lie, but then they inject something that's actually true. So they, I mean, Well, I guess it's to keep the suspicion down or something. I don't know, but
Well,
of course he does that too. But
Well, here's the fun part. I don't believe him 99% of the time. However, there have been occasions where something's come back and it turns out he was actually reporting truth. Everything he says, I take with a goddamn salt lick.
oh
Okay.
yeah,
That be,
just one.
Believe it, a broken clock's right twice a day.
yes.
Yeah, you need at least two 10-pound salt licks for that, man.
Well, I'm
Oy, oy, oy.
working on it right now. But yeah, no, Alex Jones being censored is not in my little brain acceptable. And the reasons for that is even if he's reporting it, even if everything he says is freaking wrong, and not all of it is, even if he's just a loudmouth asshole on the internet, he should still have the right to speak because what can you do if someone is speaking? You can make a counter argument and beat him to death with his own words. That's actually that's the way the free exchange of ideas works.
Absolutely.
Well, no,
I
no
am
one
a
take away
fierce
his right.
defender of free speech, but I personally, I'm not that sad to see Alex Jones' YouTube channel going bye-bye, though.
Actually,
To be honest.
because if he can be silenced, then who's next?
But he wasn't silenced.
Are we
YouTube is a private company.
next?
They decided for whatever reason to shut hit down his channel, but his website is still up and so on. I mean, he hasn't been silenced. One privately owned platform shut him down. I don't know how many others, but he wasn't silenced.
Here's one for you. Here's one for you. Let's try this on for size, because you're displaying a sort of a rather interesting form of hypocrisy, not in and of yourself, because this is your opinion, and I can make an argument against. Okay, think about it for a minute. Donald Trump is no longer allowed to block people from his personal Twitter. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Do you know?
Yeah, that's a weird. Yeah, well, basically, the whole problem is, if he speaks as a private citizen, which he can't really do. He's so much of a public person now. But if he speaks, it's like any other politician, really. If someone speaks as a private person on the internet anywhere, they should be allowed to say what they want to say. But if they speak as a politician or as POTUS, there are limits to what he is allowed to say or do.
See, that's actually not true.
That talking thing.
Let me make this real clear for you. This is his personal account. He doesn't use the POTUS account ever. Okay.
Is there actually one? I don't know if there is.
Stop. Let me finish. Okay, because people have got bad habits around here. Okay. Okay. So here's the deal. A federal judge blocked him or told him he was no longer allowed to block people because his Twitter feed, and by some level of extension, Twitter itself, is considered the public square. If they don't have access to what he has to say, then they can't do what they've got to do. And that impugns their freedom of speech, not Donald Trump's. Okay. Therefore, if it's applied this way in one case, it should be applied in all other cases. You're talking about double standards.
I got to interrupt you there because you're making a fatal legal mistake here. And the difference in the legal mistake is Donald Trump is a U.S. president. Twitter isn't. They're not a government entity. Trump is.
Well, no, they're not.
If Trump is blocking people, that is the government blocking people.
That's a half truth, and that's where Squirrel's trying to go here. Donald Trump is not using the account that I'm presenting here on a regular basis. It's the White House staff using this particular account, the @POTUS account. The one Donald
Oh,
Trump.
the so-called official POTUS account? Or?
Yeah, that is the
That's
official POTUS
his
account, which
personal account, not the official POTUS account. Therefore,
However, Squirrel, to
it-
counter your argument though about the private account versus the POTUS account, he lists himself as the president of the United States in the bio on there. So therefore, he circumvents his own private account by having that there, making it a government account at that point.
Yeah,
By
he is
the way,
operating as the
strictly by-
president of the United States.
yeah,
strictly by the rules, he's not
Yeah,
up.
that's my thinking. There.
Strictly by the rules, he's not doing that.
no, well that's the
Squirrel,
thing.
look what I just
So,
highlighted.
so
What he says.
so
Look
Squirrel,
what I just
on it.
highlighted.
Squirrel, and that is the gray area. And remember, when we were on active duty, we were allowed to be part of the political process and do things. But what was the caveat? What was the one thing we were not allowed to do?
Go ahead and finish.
And anyone? It was
from not criticize our chain of command.
yeah. Well, no, we couldn't do it in uniform. As a private
Right.
citizen, in regular civilian clothes, we could say that I personally endorse this candidate, but you could not do so in uniform because it gave the appearance of the government supporting that candidate.
Well, see, that's not something I would have done anyway.
But that is the regulation, and that is why that regulation was put in place. Which is why a few years back, that chief or senior chief that got hemmed up in the media because he was in uniform next to, I think it was Clinton, either just before or just after an event.
Mhm.
But that event was, if I remember correctly, was at the funeral or near the funeral of a military service member that she was attending. So, but again, it gives that illusion of the government supporting a certain candidate over another, and taking that standard and then applying it to the Twitter use of the current POTUS is why his personal account, the real Donald Trump Twitter account, is now treated as the POTUS Twitter account as well, because of what Jay Brown was showing in the biography, where he is listing himself solely as the President of the United States. So it is de facto, because he put that information there, an extension of the official White House means of communication.
And again, they're talking. Again, the decision was made based on this person. Everybody else's freedom of speech was being being impugned by him, by his blocking folks, and that's and it comes out to almost the same thing. The private corporation defense does not fly.
Well, and here's something to think about. Here, especially in the U.S., the First Amendment, the freedom of speech, is freedom of speech controlled by whom? By the government. And with him acting and being marked on his personal account as the president, as part of the government, that is the consistency of the Supreme Court ruling for his personal account, was you are acting as part of, seemingly acting as part of the government. The government cannot censure anyone's free speech. Ergo, it's like you, as the representative of the government, being out in the public square saying shit and people replying. You cannot stop them from doing that because of that governmental tie.
Hi.
Either way, I still see it as I'm still seeing it as an absolute abrogation of free speech for damn near any for the people involved,
Well,
and that is in my little brain not tolerable. I fought way too long
Yep.
and way too hard to have some moron in Silicon Valley just strip people out without question, without anything.
Well, and here's the thing. Before I hand it over to you, Sokka, as you're one of the more newer members to the show, them saying that Trump can't block people on his personal account, I don't have a problem with, because I recognize that governmental gray area that it falls into. But if they start expanding that to where a truly entirely private person can't restrict who can or cannot interact with them for whatever personal reasons they may have, that's where I will say, now you're going too far, because the First Amendment is really only for the relationship between the citizenry and the government.
It also covers freedom of the press, because, like it or not, Alex Jones presents himself as a journalist.
Yes.
Yeah, once again, from government interference, not from, like, okay, the First Amendment guarantees the government cannot take any actions against your speech. Like, you are free to your speech. It does not, however, mandate that other people provide a platform for you.
Hi,
You couldn't use my house.
You know what? Find me a place in the First Amendment that says that's strictly about the government. Find me a spot.
Congress shall make no law.
It doesn't matter.
That's
not the part that matters.
Congress,
That
that's
is.
government.
Hi.
Congress. No.
Is there any chance I can jump in for a quick second?
Yeah,
Here?
go for it, Sokka.
Thanks, guys. Okay, so first off, the actual ruling for Trump with this thing on Twitter is that had to do with the fact that that nobody should be not able to respond to a government official on any public forum. So the actual rule there was that they recognized Twitter as a public forum when it came to responding to politicians. Okay, so there was such a caveat there. Not that it was that he was acting in the capacity of a president. It was that when he acts as a capacity of president, regardless where he is, even Twitter would be considered a public forum in that situation. So there is a thing within that which considers Twitter not to be a private company, but in fact a public forum. That's what that's what came out of that, but only in regards to not just Trump, but any politician in power there. But to the point that says that whether or not that you can to come in and infringe on a private corporation's ability to do anything, to limit speech or anything like that, this is not a new concept. Okay, for years, many states have passed laws. Many things have been challenged on state level Supreme Court for people to protest in lieu of what the private corporations will say. So, for example, there's protesters in states like New Jersey have challenged in the New Jersey Supreme Court to protest at shopping malls, and they ruled in favor of them, basically saying that shopping malls will consider private corporations and privately owned. The concourses between like all the shops there work as de facto public forums, and therefore people's ability to protest and speak out against the government should be permitted in those areas. Same thing with airports. So the government has stepped in and has provided regulations to private corporations and their private properties to say that First Amendment rights have to be respected there, regardless what the private corporation's opinions are.
Which is where YouTube and Twitter and other such places come in. The big reason that Twitter didn't ban Alex Jones outright is because they were actually terrified that they'd get sued and a precedent would be set. I'm not surprised at Google's decisions to do that, or Alphabet's decision to do that, but at the same time, I expect any kind of a legal challenge to fall down on the side. Any type of legal challenge on our side, on the part of Alex Jones, would result in him winning at any level.
Well, that's debatable though, because those things have been set by, like I said, state level Supreme Courts. Taken to like on a federal level, who knows whether that would apply? Prager University recently took Google to court for what they perceived as censorship and blocking of their channels, and they lost
because their channel was still present.
Yes.
What they were talking about were people being directed away from their They weren't being stopped from speaking. They were just their audience was being crimped.
Yeah. So I mean, like that's
a different thing. That's a completely different thing.
Right, but because of that ruling there, it's can create some hesitation on whether or not you want to actually challenge this notion. Because I mean, like I don't know, like I think that you take a look at the past court cases that have to do with how the government can regulate private corporations into allowing things like the First Amendment, and I think that sets a good enough precedence that would scare these corporations not to do this. But I mean, at the end of the day, right now there's no laws in place. That's the thing, is that the Alex Jones violated terms of service, and he got canned because of it.
Well,
And-
that's what YouTube is saying at the moment. But
Well, I mean, it is true, but the terms of service are so vague that you can be banned by anything.
yeah,
I mean,
well, yeah, you
and-
can
and
be
terms of
you can be
service
banned
are
by
also
for
big.
discussing Alex Jones.
And not to mention that the way that the terms of service see, if this is the other weird thing, is that the terms of service, if they change, they don't grandfather in past content. So let's say that you have content that has a bunch of swearing in it, like most Hangouts I've ever been in. But if YouTube is to come out tomorrow and basically say, hey, we don't want any type of swearing, or you have to censor your content now, well, if you don't, they can just go back and take a look at everything you've done in the past and be like, oh, he's not taking up, he's not following the terms of service, and they can ban you that retroactively.
Well, if they were actually going to do that, I'd be fucked. My channel would be so gone. I wouldn't know what the hell happened.
But they did actually. They already did do that, but it wasn't for banning. It was for demonetization. If you wonder why you get those age restrictions and demonetize notes on your any video that you put out there, if you are monetized, it's because one of the things that they don't monetize now is videos that have certain content that they find questionable, such as things like swearing within that. If it comes with an age
certain
restriction,
words
they'll
in
do
the
that.
title primarily. Actually, yeah.
Yeah, and they also trace
But
back.
that's a whole. That's a whole
YouTube
different
makes their
thing.
money from ad revenue, so what the advertisers want to advertise is automatically what's going to drive how they determine.
Yeah, I mean, from what I see and what I understand of it, at least 99% of videos getting demonetized right the second they get uploaded and posted, it's an algorithm doing it based on either the title, video title, video description, or what's being said in that video.
They don't have time to scan. Even the algorithm doesn't have time to scan every video.
Oh, really? Try. Have you tried the automatic? What do you call them? Closed captioning. They can do that on that's done. That's done on the fly. Even on live streams, you can get closed captioning on live streams. So yeah, they actually can.
Yeah.
I don't know literally if that is what is being done by the audio, but I am fully confident that they have the ability to do it, and I wouldn't be surprised if they actually do on YouTube channels being internally flagged as suspect, so to speak, on their own internal systems, where they delegate more processing.
YouTube is almost entirely run by those algorithms. You have no idea.
Probably, yeah.
Not entirely, not yet. Although there has been trials for that type of stuff. I mean, do you guys remember the you guys remember like all the shit that went down with the so-called free speech app Candid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
and Patrick or Bering got he got doxxed by the owner or the creator of Candid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, actually, he was. Bering was doxxed by. Well, Bering's docs were made
His
public
name
by
was.
Christy Winters. Whether or not
but his
do it
name was made officially what do you say? Blatantly public in a live interview between the woman representing that app and Bering. But I know that Christy Winters was yeah, exactly. What was, I mean, and probably still is, in my opinion, absolutely, what do you call it? Obsessed by Bering.
and Sargon. You can still go through her feed and find Sargon and Bering videos that she's been doing recently. There's
And
one
to think that she lives relatively close to me, being living in Germany, that's kind of scary too.
there was one instance one instance is reasonably recently, it was a few weeks ago, where she decided she was going to cherry pick a small piece of one of Sargon's videos, and then
Doesn't she always?
and tried to call it a debunk. The fact checking Sargon of Akkad. It's like, you couldn't do that if you tried.
I saw that.
Flattered
That was
for
horrible.
Sargon.
I think just going back to the other point, though, is that I think that there is an interesting question that does arise whether or not things like Twitter and YouTube should in fact be treated like public forums. They should be regulated as such.
Well, that's what Ted Cruz went. That's one of the things Ted Cruz went after Mark Zuckerberg about while he was sitting there looking at data. Are you a platform or are you a publisher? Because publishers have specific rules that they have to follow. Not that most of them really do, but a public forum has a different set of rules they must follow. A public forum or a platform has to concern itself with maintaining freedom of speech for all persons, whereas a publisher is actually responsible for all the content that's been uploaded. And Zuckerberg tried to dance the question. So it's really a question of definition. Are they a platform as they claim to be, or are they and thus required to at least enable freedom of speech, or are they a publisher and thus legally responsible for everything that's on their service?
Well, I don't see a problem. YouTube is a platform. Of course, they do produce videos themselves, but that's irrelevant here. They are a platform. Period.
So
there's no question about it.
Abrogating completely someone's freedom of speech is actually not good. Believe it or not, there are no laws in the United States on hate speech. None.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. There are no laws. What?
There are no laws in the United States on hate speech, even so far as to define hate speech.
Well, I would imagine that there are laws that could be used for it, but nothing specific against hate speech.
Well, there's not even really any solid definition, regardless of who you're talking about. Most of the countries that are currently in the EU have hate speech laws, but that's because the EU demanded it.
And Britain got nuts with it too.
Well, it's not as bad. I mean, like it's still kind of scary to think about. But so when it comes to things like hate speech laws, that technically, the U.S. does not have hate speech laws. That there are certain things that fall under other crimes, slander, libel, inciting violence. Like those things are examples of. I wouldn't say that it's examples of speech that isn't protected. They consider those things acts. When you act in a deliberate fashion to damage somebody's business or reputation, or if you act in a deliberate way to incite people to action, to violence, those things aren't protected under free speech because they're not free speech issues. They're acts. They're actually actions that you do.
Or call to actions, incitement to action.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Right, and that would actually be an illegal act. I'm with you on this one.
Yeah. Under hate speech laws,
I can tell Alex Jones never did any of that.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is that I think he did. Okay, I think that he did, but it's not. But here's the thing: like, even if Alex Jones did do that, it's not up for YouTube or Twitter to decide that. There's a legal system in place for that reason, and Alex Jones is being sued right now by parents of Sandy Hook victims, because that's what's supposed to be happening. Is that if you do something and you say something that that does call people to act, or does damage reputations, or does do these other things that can be taken to civil court, well, yeah, you should be taken to civil court. But it's not for YouTube or Twitter to decide whether they should demonetize you or whatever because of that.
Well,
it's part
if it's their platform, they can still do
Number
whatever
one
they want, as long as it's not illegal for them to do so, though.
right, if it's their platform. But like I said, this goes back to the question of whether or not the terms of service and then the things like the regulation of the content or the
Yeah.
banning of
Oh, yeah,
content should be a
that-
practice that's even brought in for
Yeah.
in the
But
first
again,
place.
Epiphany.
these terms of
Epiphany.
service, hey, these terms of service are so broadly defined that they could cancel. They could strip everybody off of YouTube that isn't a major network, and they would theoretically be legal to do so.
Yeah, because the TOS is a joke in terms of what do you call it? Establishing what you can and cannot do.
That's because all this shit is written by lawyers to enable whose job it is to keep the companies in question from being sued.
Well,
Most
hold
of
on,
it also is a
hold on
job
a second.
to-
Hold on a
to some
second.
extent, maybe.
Yeah, that's not true. Okay, because this is here's the other thing that a lot of people say is that people say that the corporations have the right to do this stuff in order to protect their ass. Well, that's not true at all, because one of the things is that under Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, it basically protects all people from all websites online from any third-party content that's posted to them. So, for example, like let's say that you host a web page, and on your web page you will it's your own personal blog, and you allow comments on there. And somebody comes along and writes a bunch of Hitler did nothing wrong, like the Holocaust was a good thing, whatever. These like things that would be considered hate speech in my country, for example, like comments on that webpage, or things that would be in the U.S. If it was a call to hey, we should go out and murder all Muslims or something like that. Well, you're on a page that's now hosting a message that's calling people to actions of violence. Now, what do you do? Of course, yeah, you can erase it, I guess, but
I can grab their IP address from the post and send it off to the Phoebes, and they take care of it.
Right, but the thing is that are you responsible for that? Are you responsible for the content that other people will post, in your comment section? And the U.S. has basically said, under the Communications Decency Act, that no, you're not responsible for third-party comments left on your site. This also applies to YouTube. If you're a hosting site that hosts things like videos, you are not responsible for the content of the videos that are up there. You're protected in law, in court, from those things.
Stock account. In case you have that communications, what did you call it? Communications.
Yeah, it's like
how when was that put in? Because that sounds very much like there's actually is a law that has been at least attempted at getting updated so it reflects the times we have here. There's countless laws in Danish law that just isn't up to snuff in terms of how the internet works, for example.
Well, but that would be Danish law. Like this is under.
How young is that law?
Okay, I have an answer for you, Bo.
1996.
Yeah, it was 1996.
The act was put in.
But
okay,
that
cool.
being said, in 1997, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down the anti-indecency provisions of the act, so porn could still be there.
Well, not just. There's also other things too, that are okay. So if you're a site and you host pornographic material, like that, for example, something like YouTube, if you were to put pornographic material on there, that's a little bit different. I'm not sure how they do that with the law there, but I mean, geez, I remember actually reading about this, and I'm probably not gonna screw up the exact thing on this, but there are certain things that are not considered free speech, okay? And depending on what platform you are and what stage you are, there are things that they can't regulate. So any type of illegal graphic video isn't considered a free speech.
Showing somebody doing something illegal unless it's in order to show people what happened somewhere. I mean, if it's
mm-hmm.
yeah, I get what you mean there.
Here's the thing. Okay, under any circumstances, if you're looking at if you're talking about something that would be illegal, that would be an illegal act in and of itself, that's not going to be covered. For example, putting porn on YouTube would be illegal. Would be essentially illegal because short people could have access to it. Anybody under the age of 18 that can lie about their age.
Well, that's something that really no, I shouldn't say bother me, but it's really weird to me. If that would be up to the parent up to parents to do make sure that their kids don't have
Here
access
legally-
to what they don't want to. But the
Legally-
thing is, the thing I really don't understand about American media, as I see it, the very limited information here, but still, you can show a movie on a television station, on a network, wherever, in the U.S. that has violence, it has profanity, and all that. But if you show just a normal documentary about something, it really doesn't matter what it is. And there's a woman there that is topless. Ooh, you have to cover up the nipples. Otherwise, it's I don't know, illegal. I don't know exactly, but that's you have to be very careful about that kind of stuff. That's the stuff.
Bo, here's the thing. Okay, showing outright pornography to anyone under the age of 18 or allowing them to buy it is verboten. Okay.
Yeah, for example, in a kiosk.
No, wait for it.
Yeah.
Wait for it. Don't just jump in here because your documentary thing is actually wrong.
Is it?
Yes. That sort of thing is permitted as long as it is used for educational purposes. And there is a clear demarcator for that. If you're talking about a documentary about an African tribe or some other similar thing, and you've got women running around that are topless, as long as it's not considered excessive, it will be permitted. But usually they do that on cable channels. It's like
that wasn't exactly what I meant, but I was talking about situations where a woman being topless isn't the subject of this.
You didn't let me finish. Okay, Cinemax runs their porn in the middle of the night because kids aren't supposed to be up, and they can act, and that's a time in which they can do it. Midnight to about between like 11 o'clock p.m. and about 4 a.m. Okay, the under 18 set usually is in bed by then, and they're allowed to broadcast that. They're allowed to run that shit through your cable. It actually has a paywall that their parents have to deal with. So
sorry.
It's not exactly a gray area in terms of like serious porn, but there's there's a mostly okay in the case of nudity where it is apropos. For example, my example about African tribes, and there are situations where it is not. Two women working together that are each rug munching. That's bad. There's a difference. Also, artistic nudity is permitted.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but still, it's. I mean, the scenario I was talking about earlier. I mean, if you, for example, have having a documentary about something that has to do with, I don't know, journalism, doesn't really matter what it is, and you in this by chance you see nudity, it hasn't anything to do with the subject at all. I have seen documentaries where shown on American TV stations that maybe it's just to make sure that they cover their asses, but they blurred out the nipples, for example.
Yeah,
and
no.
on other so-called reality shows where people are topless, women's nipples are always covered. either
Yeah,
by cloning or blurring.
Because it's not an education.
Because it's very apparently it's very
You're talking
dangerous
about a reality
for kids.
It's completely different.
Okay, so I just want to go back to one of the points there you're talking about, like with online pornography and stuff, is that there's absolutely nothing stopping YouTube from posting pornographic videos other than YouTube. There's no laws. There's nothing illegal about it. They have an age system in place that as long as the videos get put behind an age like wall of some sort that says that you have to be 18 to watch this.
No way to lock in, by the way.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You can go. Anybody can do that to any site. Like it doesn't really matter. But like, yeah, to say that it's actually illegal for a site like YouTube to post porn is just wrong. Like they could, they just don't.
And there's a big difference between something that is porn and someone calling a documentary about healthcare or sexual transmitted diseases and calling that porn for some reason. I mean, I know that there are YouTube channels out there that are made by regular people, but that they make sexual educational videos, and they're sure as hell aren't monetized. I'm pretty sure of that, but they show literal nudity. Even how do you put on a condom? Well, let me show you. And then he shows people how to do it without blurring anything. And that is allowed. Apparently. I mean, that video, I don't know how long I stumbled across that one. Well, that's a very old video, and it's still there. And it is age restricted, but you can easily circumvent age restriction because there's no, at the moment, on YouTube itself, there may be plugins, but YouTube itself does not have a function where parents can lock in their children's Google accounts or whatever, so that they cannot unlock age restrictions themselves, which is kind of weird, I think.
One of the other things I was going to say there is that, like, I'm not sure. You guys know Atheism is Unstoppable, his channel? Devin Tracy, yeah. Regardless of whether you're a fan of him or not, doesn't matter.
He's a bit abrasive, as I remember. It's a long time ago since I last saw anything.
Right, but recently he did a video where he was critiquing a video put on Vice. So Vice News, which is a relatively larger channel. Like, I mean, they got millions of subscribers. So it's pretty liberal in its viewpoints there. But it was
one of those hipster-ish TV channels on the internet, or?
Yeah, but it was a video about incels, and I know this is hitting all the winning points, huh? But within that video, they displayed cartoon pornography, like full scenes of penetration with cartoons.
Ooh, anime style.
Yeah, like not anime style, like crudely drawn, like the kind of cartoons, the kind of cartoons you would have sketched in a junior high yearbook.
Right.
Now totally that video,
drawn and okay.
Yeah, that video was still up on Vice. Okay, but on Atheism Unstoppable's channel, it's been his video has been blocked, and his channel has a strike for displaying pornography.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because
according to American law, how do you define pornography?
Well,
it isn't about humans. I mean,
well, and here's the thing: it's not so much. In that instance, wasn't so much about U.S. law. That was just YouTube being YouTube and not actually applying things equitably. And one of the things I'd like to point out with that is I'm not saying who the offender is, but there's a particular YouTuber who was recently caught live overly disciplining their child. I mean, it was not a simple discipline. There were people who took that snippet of video, shared it, called it what it was, and some of those videos have been taken down by YouTube, but the original video that it came from, which has been flagged for child abuse, is still up.
and that's kind of scary because it is a YouTube channel whose name will not be divulged, I guess. But I personally did some research in terms of what the laws are in the country of that person's origin, and found out that it is indeed illegal for him to do what he did. So, and based on that, I did also what do you call it? Flag or report that video for child abuse, not just saying blah 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 blah, slap blah 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 blah, child abuse. I actually point out where in the might as well say it, English law about violence and assault and so on. Should just writing out, well, it's illegal because blah blah blah. This is where I got it from. This is what it says.
Yep.
And so on. And even though it's still up,
Well,
but the tiny video snippet, the tiny snippets, those are gone.
those are
That's just
some
sickening
of
to
them.
me.
Some of them
the
have been
hell?
taken down by YouTube. The parent video that they came from is still up. But here's the thing: take a wild guess why that could possibly be the case.
Well, they in terms of, well, the most likely I would think is that it was taken down by an algorithm, not a real person, and it was taken down on the basis of what you use as
The original video has the
or
original video
initially.
Not just that. There's one word. What do you think this other channel generates for YouTube that the smaller channels don't?
money.
Oh, it has something to do with dough, I think.
Yeah.
The color. Yeah, I hope not, but yeah, I can't dismiss that.
Yeah, well, they took out Alex Jones, who was running more than 2 million subscribers, and what was it? 10 or 15 million views a day?
Well, yeah, but a lot of people run ad blockers, like me. So the revenue from watches really is limited. I'm talking about active hangouts with super chat going. Because YouTube takes a 40% cut of those.
I'm aware. Fully.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
bullshit. Oh man. Fuck that.
That's
Yeah.
almost 15%
do that.
more than sales tax here. So it's appalling, but I'm not super surprised of the amount.
That's almost 10 times the sales tax here. So.
Where are
Well,
you?
it's the U.S. Ta-da.
Taco, where are you? I'm curious.
Where am I?
Yeah.
I am in beautiful Vancouver Island, Canada.
Oh,
Oh, just up
Another
north.
country that has a universal health care. Hi.
Hi.
question, Taco.
Hi.
Sure.
Is your island on fire about that?
You know what? Up north, there's a couple fires, but it's not that bad right now. There's no external chat here in this video. I'd show you. I went camping last weekend, and
There is actually.
there's an external chat.
No, the external chat for this is Discord.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you know what? I'll post them in Discord
That
later, but I'll show you the difference between Friday when I showed up and Sunday when I left, because the smoke just rolled right in, and woke up to kind of a creepy dystopian kind of like orange sun, like that. There was so much.
We've been getting the smoke from your fires down here.
Yeah,
Well,
down
it's
here in
not-
Washington.
Not my fault. I don't own any fires.
We actually had loads of smoke down here near Seattle for what was it, 4 or 5 days from the fires that were going on in mainland British Columbia.
Yeah. As far south as Olympia too, Squirrel.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I'm in even in Vancouver Island, because we're pretty far south. Like a lot of people don't realize that like Port Angeles is the closest place to us. Like even
Oh yeah, no,
even closer than Vancouver.
Well, I realize, but that's because you're in Kanukistan.
This place is an anomaly because we sit so much farther south than the rest of the Canadian border.
Yeah. Well, it's still Kanukistan.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he's in a better country than you are.
Wow. Shots fired. I didn't say that, by the way.
For you?
Huh?
How's that prime minister of yours going for you there, Saka?
You know, I will say
That one is, yeah. Okay.
there's
I'll
there's a
give you
lot
that.
of there's a lot of things that I disagree with obviously with the prime minister and his brand of politics, and although I don't want to, like, whenever I turn a discussion into Canadian political talk, it always manages to kill like the room completely. So I'm going to avoid doing that.
Also called puzzle. Yeah.
But I will say that the recent stuff that we've had going on with Saudi Arabia, I've actually been pretty happy with him about.
And by the way, let us not disparage each other's countries, please. I'd appreciate that.
Well, here's the thing. You want to mention Trudeau like that, all Saka has to say is, well, look at Trump.
Yeah. Look at Carrot Boy.
Speaking of Trump, that sounds like a segue into the next topic.
But here's sorry, back to Canadian politics for a quick second. The Harper government was good.
Damn it, it didn't work.
We had a lot of time under the Harper government. It was pretty good. But even me, like as a conservative, like up here, I realized that, that I didn't like some of the directions that the Conservatives were going. They were getting a little too big for the britches, if you know what I mean.
Are you talking conservative like the British Conservative parties, or
Conservative like the what party?
Conservative like the British Conservative parties?
I think it's reasonably close, like on the political spectrum. But like when I say the Conservative Party, it's our most right-leaning party, and they're actually called the Conservative Party.
Oh
so,
yeah,
so it's just like the
At
British
least
one.
they're honest. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I understand. Like, there's a certain kind of like checks and balances, kind of a way teeter-totter, whatever you want to call it. Like with if you have a party in power for far too long, things can sometimes go, even if it is your party, sometimes they go in the direction you don't want.
Complacent, yeah. They get complacent and it goes to apeshit, yeah.
Yeah, so I was kind of happy with when the Conservatives lost, the Liberals took over. At least it wasn't the New Democratic Party or any really far left-leaning party. But in the future, like in 2019, when the next election happens in Canada, I hope the Conservatives take it back again.
Well, to be honest, in my country and in many other countries, if I lived there, I would probably say I don't give a shit as to which, to some extent, which political party is in the driver's seat, as long as those who are there actually know what the hell they're doing and they're doing their jobs well. Even if it's the, a Danish party called the Progress Party, which is run by a racist. Even there, if they're in power here, as long as they do a good job, I don't care what party it is. Don't give a damn. But then again, that would never work, would it?
Well, and I agree with that in the sense that I have never registered an affiliation with either major political party here in the U.S., and the reason for that is because I don't trust either one of them enough to actually put myself with them in the entirety in that way. Plus, it also keeps me true to myself, where I have to actually evaluate all the candidates on both sides to decide where my vote is going to go. The shitty part about it is the state that I'm in, you have to claim the party if you want to participate in the primary.
Oh yeah, that's
We
one
do
of the
that
things
here too. Believe it or
really
not.
retarded about
I don't.
American elections. If you want to vote, you have to register. What
Well-
the hell?
Well,
If you're old enough to be allowed to vote, why the hell would you have to register?
well,
He's
here-
talking about primary.
Well,
Okay.
Well, here's the thing, Bo. The way it
well,
works in order to vote in the US political system, you are supposed to prove that you are a citizen first, just to register. And in my state, you can register as an independent, which I have, which means I am not affiliating with either the Republican or Democratic Party. The downside to it, in the state that I'm in and some of the other states in the US, in order to participate in the primary process, so the internal to the Democratic Party election for which candidate is going to get the nomination for the general election level, that first step of elections, you have to be affiliated with that party to vote in that party's primary.
It's called
An
a
interest-
closed primary state.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
But then I'm like,
Sounds weird to me.
yeah, but then
I mean, does it basically come down to, at least initially, a matter of just the paperwork?
Sort of.
America is a very young country, and it's a mix of people from all over the world, and apparently some states have even threatened to, try to break away if certain things didn't go their way.
Well,
It was what, California, I think. It doesn't matter. And I mean, in Denmark, the very second you turn 18, you're allowed to vote. You have a social security the day you're born,
Mhm.
and that social security number is given to you automatically. It is a part of you to the day you die. That number is, and the number is just simply your birth date and a 4-digit extra registration number, so to speak. There's nothing to you don't have to register to vote or anything like that. You automatically get a voting card in your mail, and you take that when there's election, regardless of what kind of election it is.
Mhm.
You automatically get a letter that you show up with that letter to the appropriate place, and you show a valid photo ID, and you get to vote. Done.
our election
Well,
system is a lot more complicated. So
Yeah.
apparently.
that's what it comes down to. It's because basically, like, especially like we talk about like a federal election, like with the president, for example, you're not actually voting for the president.
Not
No,
directly.
for the party.
You're voting. Well, you're voting within your state for a certain number of, either all or a certain number of electors who are going to vote or should be voting for the president.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where a lot of people, even in the US, get it wrong. They think during the presidential election, part of it is the media is to blame by touting the popular vote numbers as well, which is the totality of the people who voted from each state totaled together as one total pool. But the way it actually works is you never vote higher than your state. All of your votings as an active voter here in the US is essentially within your state. You're voting for your local, your government, your city government, you're voting for your state government representation, and then you are voting for your federal representation of your state. That's it.
So when you're talking about registering to vote, you're registering to vote within the district you're residing in.
Yep.
That's really all the registering.
Alan, you had something, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know in quite a lot of countries on continental Europe, you have to register with, or you used to have to register with the government where you lived, so that the government knew where everybody was. Is that
Pretty much what this is? Yeah.
I was going to say, is that the case in the? Because like here in the UK, although you're entitled to vote when you hit 18, you register with the Electoral Commission to say where you live, so they know which constituency you will be voting in, which district councils you will be voting for.
Yep. Well, and part of
Because
that,
the government doesn't keep a register of where everybody lives.
yeah, and that it's similar to here because here in the States, because it is managed at a state level as well as the federal level looks at the information that the states have to operate on. any change whenever you move, even if you're staying within the state, you have to update your driver's license within a month. Here in the state I'm in, to update and reflect the new address. It helps with the census. It helps with knowing the voter base.
So your personal your private
Alan.
address is on driver licenses?
On the driver's
Yeah.
license, yes.
Alan,
And actually, like,
can
I don't know about
That's
all
very-
states, but at least in my state too, like when you do change your driver's license stuff, as part of that, you can automatically just re-register. It's just all be done the same.
Okay, Alan, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Actually, more just confirmation. You guys vote at the local level for your MPs, and then the MPs go down to London, and they have they either and they get to vote for whoever the prime minister is going to be. Although usually that would be the one that's in charge of whatever party winds up with a majority. Yes.
Pretty much, yes. Whichever party's got the majority will be the party that is going to select the prime minister. But
they
actually,
like the leader of their
technically, the leader of the main party will go to the Queen and ask permission to form the government, because it's because we have a constitutional monarchy here.
Out of curiosity, because I know you guys don't actually have a written constitution as such, not like we do anyway.
Yeah.
What should happen if the Queen says no?
Then
Ooh, that's
she's
a
not
funny one.
allowed
We
to.
have the same
She's not
issue as in
allowed to.
Denmark, too. Yeah, that's a funny thing. Every
She
law
isn't allowed
in
to
Denmark
because it's a
has to be
constitutional
signed by-
monarchy.
Yeah,
The monarchy's
Also in
bound by
Denmark.
the laws. So
Yes.
yeah.
yeah, so
The Queen
it's
is
whoever.
considered the head of the country, and but she has to sign to approve a law, and if she doesn't, it can't get approved. But she's obligated to sign it. In Denmark, she can't. This is the same system in Denmark, but it's a long-lived tradition. But she can actually, and she has denied signing in a new law. And what happens then? I don't know on the technical side, but that when it happens, the lawmakers do have to just go back and rework the law, and then try again. But it's very seldom.
So it's similar to presidential veto here, where but here the other check and balance is if Congress doesn't want to change the bill, they just have to get a supermajority of 3/4.
No, 66.
yeah, they can with a high enough
full
majority.
house.
Basically, pretty much the high enough majority, they can override the veto.
Yeah.
Just leave it at that.
But I
Well, a
remember
veto
it was a fairly high percentage though.
A veto override is 2/3 of the
Of both houses.
people sitting both for the Senate and the House of Representatives. You have to get both houses.
Oh, yeah, both have to be at 2/3, which actually, when you look at the numbers, it ends up being close to 75% of the entire body because of the disparity between the House of Representatives and the Senate itself due to the number of congressmen.
Right.
Getting back to Alan's question, in Denmark, you are obligated by law to inform the government of your address. If you move, you have I have no idea how long it is, but you have an obligation to tell them where you move to. And by the way, these days, no one, unless they have a special permission, no one gets mail from the state. I mean, from the government by paper. They get it electronically. So you will always get your tax mails regarding tax or whatever it is, wherever you are, because it's electronic. But you have to provide your address.
Interesting.
That kind of sounds.
They
that kinda
always
sounds-
know it.
Yeah, that kind of sounds basically what you're talking about, like that is like our voter registration. Though technically ours is optional. People don't technically have to. If
See,
they
in
don't,
Brazil,
they're
they
just
do.
not going to be able to vote in the locality we're at. But
Yeah.
Okay, here's a
The
fun
thing
one.
about-
Here's a fun one for you, Tech. In Brazil, they are legally required to vote. Required. It is not a
Yeah,
question.
but
You will pay a
but it's
fine if you
not a
don't.
black and white voting though.
that could be a good or bad thing. I keep going back and forth on that because
Yeah.
I watch my fellow Americans, so I'm aware of their general level of competence. So
Well, still, being required to put your vote, if there are two people that you have to choose between, or two parties, you can still even either void the vote, just
Just
make
turn in a blank piece of paper. It's great.
Wait, no, you guys can't do that because it's electronic these days. Yeah, we
No, actually, I
still
can-
use paper.
Funnily enough, I get a paper ballot because we do all, because this state at least, and Jay can tell you, all of our voting goes in by mail.
You can actually do it.
I'm
You can
happy
do it
to hear
on.
that, by the way.
Oh, here's the thing. You technically can do it online, like I showed you guys when I looked at my ballot that one time. But I still have to print it off, and I still have to submit it either to a ballot drop box or via the mail. We don't electronically send anything to the Secretary of State of Washington to get our vote counted.
I could do my registration all electronically. So.
Yeah, I can do my registration electronically. I just can't vote electronically. Also,
Well, hey, here's a funny question for the whole panel. Is it allowed in your respective countries to talk about where you're going to put your own vote before you put it in?
Yeah.
It's illegal, Mark. It's illegal for me if there's an upcoming election. For example, it's illegal for me to whip out in the booth, voting booth. It would be illegal for me to whip out my phone and film myself putting my vote in, and then sharing that on YouTube, for example.
Oh,
that would be illegal.
Yeah,
I have no idea why.
Here there are restrictions on what you can and cannot do when you are at the polling place, because what they see it as is potential voter tampering through indirect means and unintentional means. Because if you get a number of people who are announcing, hey, I just voted for so-and-so, people could pay attention to that and see, well, fuck, my candidate's not going to win, so why should I even fucking bother?
Well, here's the thing: if you wait a couple of weeks, you could post that. You could post that shit all you want here.
Oh yeah, when the election is over, then you can.
You have to wait a couple of weeks until after the races were decided.
Yeah, no, that's it. Doing it like live, same day type of thing. That's why there's the restriction.
You can't
the law says
you can't specifically campaign for any candidates at a polling location either.
Yep.
No, it's illegal. Denmark, there is a geographical limit of, I can't remember if it's 200 or 400 meters. I think it's 200 meters.
Sounds about right, because I think ours is a couple hundred yards.
Mm-hmm. And that usually means that when I go to vote where I live, I usually get inundated as I walk towards the voting place by the different political parties with, if it's that time of the day, with not donuts, but breakfast, just small morsels of breakfast-looking things, to sway us, to just give us that slight last what do you call it, nudge, if you will. But and sometimes if they do get too close, you get one of these voting officials, or whatever they're called, and they get personal. They don't get violent in any way, but they literally they literally just go up to them, pick up their stuff, and pull it away from the area, literally.
Now,
and then they get they get written up, and the political party gets a fine. There's no hassle. There's no discussion. They get a fine. Done.
Specifically in the U.S., it's within 75-foot radius of the property of a polling location.
Okay.
Yeah.
And here's one for you. Bo suggested they handing out breakfast or whatever. That is actually completely verboten here. You can't do
And
that because they would consider that because it's considered buying votes.
Yep.
And you can have that.
Yeah, buying someone off.
Not happening.
Yeah. Even
Here,
if it's just free pens or whatever, it's a no-go.
Actually, for
here the filming thing is illegal. Full stop. You can't publish a photograph of anything in a voting booth ever.
that's an entirely different thing. That's probably that's yours in the UK. Here, nobody cares as long as the races are over.
Yeah, I'm so sad that we don't have a German in here, because I'm sure that Germany it would be way more strict on that part.
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I'd probably try and hold his feet to the fire for continuing to vote for Angela Merkel.
Oh yeah, I'm not exactly a fan of her either. But I'm just talking about the for example, in Germany, it's illegal. I learned this from GeoStreber. Some of you know who it is. GeoStreber, as some people call him. It is illegal to homeschool your kids in any way, shape, or form. And the reason is because of the Second World War. They're afraid of... No, they want to prevent anyone from teaching about the Nazi regime and what they did, and do it incorrectly. The same reason that it is illegal to show the swastika, for example, in public.
Mm. Oh yeah, they are really sensitive with that stuff, because
so that strict stuff. Yeah, they have a bad conscience, so to speak. Still.
Well, I would say they have a good conscience by wanting to be
very
sensitive about how they broach that topic, because it is such a blight on the country.
Humiliation in freaking Germany.
Mm-hmm. But the weird thing is, in Denmark there are local, in local we don't have counties in Denmark anymore, but just in smaller towns and bigger towns, there are actually political parties that are not neo-Nazi, but they are Nazi related. But they're still legal. They still have it's still legal for them to establish themselves as a political party, as a so-called Nazi party. But in Germany, that's a no-go. And I understand the bad taste in people's mouths, especially Germans who, even kids today that didn't grow up, that weren't even born during the Second World War, that still have a bad taste in their mouth because of Nazism. But for them, I would still say I don't like the fact that they're not allowed to speak about it publicly, about Nazism and so on. It's for me, it's a too aggressive, what do you call it? Aggressive cut into the freedom of speech issue.
Yeah, so I'd personally like to know who the Nazis are, because well, I wouldn't know who they are, so they should be able to talk. That way I can identify them.
And then avoid them and treat them accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're allowed to say your shit, but I need to know when you do it so I can throw it right back at you. But yeah.
So Squirrel, I sent you a couple of links on Discord. If you get a chance to look at those, it looks like we're not technically closed primaries anymore.
Are we not? Because
No,
we
we're
were
top 2 candidates. It's a pretty accurate response from Hethkar, isn't it?
Yes, it is. You know what?
Huh.
Go ahead and pull the
I
picture
know I had
up.
to. I know I had to register with the Democrats to go to even go to the caucuses to try and help Bernie get in.
Oh yeah, no, I know
Because
that.
at that point I was anybody but Hillary Clinton. I still am.
Yes, and that was what I was going to bring up is technically in the 2016 primaries, I was able to vote both Democrat and Republican because I just signed different papers because they were at different times, so I had enough time to process between the two of them.
But
And
then,
then I went
then
back
the
Nice.
question would be: would that be filtered out during
No.
the counting process?
No, because it's my legal right to change my party affiliation at any time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but did you say put in basically say you were able to put in 2 votes?
I voted in 2
Or
different
did I just
primary
hear that wrong?
options. It
For president.
was for president.
Okay,
and
so I heard wrong. You
Yeah,
didn't have
so-
2 votes to put in.
No, so what he did is by having enough time between the Democratic Party's primary and the Republican Party's primary, he was able to be registered for one, change affiliation to the other, and then vote in the other. Because the step that he was voting at was for which candidate the party was going to put up in the general election.
Yeah, it's basically it's my way as an independent of being able to tell the parties of who I want them to vote for at their various conventions that happen later in the summer and early fall. Because at the time we were a closed primary system. They were still working out the deal with the Initiative 872 and implementing the 2-party primary that we had this year. But the situation is that I still have the legal right to have my voice heard by my representation. What they were doing by having closed primaries is preventing me from having my own my voice heard.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm thinking.
And it,
What was I thinking of? Oh, right. One more thing for those of you who are not aware, we don't actually have a Democratic primary. We have caucuses where everybody sits around and talks for hours on end. That tends to be a very grueling process, and once it starts, you can't leave.
I feel need to say yay.
Yeah, it actually ends up being quite the deterrent to the political process for a lot of people who actually have other shit to do. And by the way, so the picture that Jay Brown is showing right here of Picard, Hethkar has the perfect response to it. Picard looks like he's halfway into a stroke.
Yeah, no shit.
I posted this on the on Psystrike's Discord as, hey, can we get this as an opening scene for movie night?
Not an opening scene, just a flash for when everybody's screaming drink.
That would work
CBS
too.
would be on that within seconds. If you use the video clip in there.
Oh no, it would just be that screen image, just that individual meme. So they can sit and screw, and even then, one of the channels that I'm a subscriber of and I enjoy their content is Trek Yards. They talk a lot about Star Trek and other sci-fi franchises and the tech and ships predominantly. Well, they were having a live stream a few days ago, and in the live chat of it, we somehow got onto the conversation of the JJ verse, Enterprise, and Discovery, and to which I just had to say, it's like, can we just all agree and just completely forget that the JJ verse or season 1 of Discovery just doesn't exist?
Unfortunately, there are too many Trek fans out there that won't allow that to happen.
And by the way, it seems that J.J. Abrams is going to get another. I can't remember if it was a movie or series going with Jean-Luc Picard again. Not as a captain, but I can't remember what it was about exactly.
Yeah, to
Probably
be honest,
senior diplomat.
well, to be honest, there's a lot with the Star Trek franchises that really has been poorly mismanaged because
there's two owners basically.
Exactly.
The whole franchise. Yeah.
So the JJ verse was essentially its own thing that Paramount, which now is a Viacom company, owned, whereas CBS owned everything else. And CBS kind of got screwed because they allowed Bad Robot to get the lion's share of the profits from merchandising and marketing, which is actually where they've made the majority of their money from the 3 JJ verse movies, which they've still been trying to kick around and saying, oh, we're going to do a 4th one. But recently, Chris Pine and Chris Hemsworth have both backed out of considering doing number 4 of the JJ verse. So the rest of the crew that was left is not far behind of walking away from it.
Well, atop that, the guy that was playing Chekhov died. And then we saw other problems. Did you? By the way, do you guys know who owns CBS?
Paramount.
Oh, don't say Koch brothers. The Koch brothers, please don't.
Actually, it's
I'm
Viacom.
idiot, but it's what now?
CBS. They bought it.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, they paid cash.
No.
You're making it sound like that's bad, is it?
Well, that must have been recent
talking out of
because Viacom years back bought Paramount, which is why there was the division and the separation with the JJ verse, and why Viacom Paramount got certain parts of the Star Trek franchise under their purview, the newer stuff, while CBS held all the TV series and the older movies.
Well, in any case, the story I heard with, I think it's...
Disney has a streaming service, right?
Yeah.
Oh, CBS, the All Access.
Did you know that that Ted Turner actually owns the rights to broadcast Star Wars movies up until the start of 2019?
Yep. That's why it's always on. That's why it's always on TNT or TBS when they do those marathons.
Because Crazy KK decided she wanted to sell those rights so she could afford to redo Solo. And then it went.
Oh man.
And
fuck's sake.
Star Wars was having a tough time after The Force Awakens, as is. That Rogue One.
The Last Jedi was just a bad movie. It blew.
Well, that's the thing is, The Force Awakens was okay as a re-entry. And then I'll admit it, I actually enjoyed Rogue One, and I think it fit between episodes 3 and 4 perfectly. Especially as a prelude.
I have to say that the movie itself, without thinking, for audiences that I'm sorry, I don't mean to swear here, but have never seen the other Star Wars movies, in itself is a great movie.
Yeah, Rogue One, they knocked out of the park. But then they completely whiffed on The Last Jedi. And then it just missed even worse on Solo. They killed the franchise with that.
Yeah, but then again, it's a bitch to stand up to the scrutiny of people who millions of people who grew up on the franchise.
But they did good with Rogue One. They actually managed to keep the new and old fans happy with Rogue One and how it played out.
Yeah, even having a female what do you call it? A female antagonist?
Protagonist.
Yeah, protagonist. To keep the so-called snowflake, it's a SJW feminist retards happy without making a fuss about it.
Yeah.
And she was good. I mean, no
It
problem.
was a well-written character.
Yeah. Exactly.
National Amusements?
Yeah.
Oh, the parent company of Viacom and CBS. Ha ha.
Yeah,
So they're
but
separate, but it's like Safeway and Albertsons. They're separate
Yeah, I
companies, but they're owned by the same group.
It was like I can't remember one time there was something in Marvel where someone was talking about the comic fans don't like minority, like black minority or female superheroes, and all I can think of is a Storm.
Yeah. I might add.
Oh, that's it.
Here's-
We don't have a problem with them if they're well
Right
written.
in order to,
Oh, Wonder Woman.
and you're not dropping anvils on people every 5 minutes. Nobody cares what color or shape or gender these people are. Nobody cares as long as they're interesting.
Yeah, as long as they're cool and kick-ass, and yeah, done. I mean,
Okay, but when they turned Thor into a woman, that was bad. Not to mention she was spewing that she was spewing feminist talking points a whole way through.
Oh.
People got pissed off about that.
oh yeah, where they made the identity of Thor as a mantle to be passed on.
Yeah.
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 But
yeah,
and here's the thing,
I mean-
that came up recently because there's been talk that Chris Hemsworth doesn't want to play Thor anymore, and that they're actually going to use that as a way to keep the character going in the background without having him be the on-screen bit of it. Plus there's the idea that after the next installment of Infinity Wars, he's not going to be around anymore because the story doesn't really need to contain him, because when you look at his movies, he's essentially done a full character arc already. So why keep him going when there's so many other characters that they can bring in and build up and work with?
Right.
And something
That's-
different in terms of movies and head actors. James Bond. A character that there's only one James Bond for me, and that's Sean Connery. But apart from that, I can't remember the guy who's been playing James Bond for a couple of years now. But he
Daniel
has
Craig.
clearly stated, Daniel Craig. I am done with playing James Bond. I don't want to do this anymore. So they have to find a new one, and still, people are up in arms, screaming their heads off because they can't get what was it? They can't get that black guy to play it. I mean, come on.
No. See, here's the thing.
I heard Bond was going to turn into a black woman.
Well, here's the thing with the character of Bond, because the character has been around so long, and it's already, while it hasn't been said outright that the identity is purely a moniker and an assignment within MI6, that's essentially how you treat it from a headcanon standpoint, to explain all the changes in the lead actors, even back in the 60s and 70s when it started. So for people to get bent out of shape over recasting the character for future movies in a certain manner is like, get the fuck over yourself. Just because
that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Speaking of recasting,
When they talk about recasting, when they talk about recasting Bond, for example, and they think, oh, Black Bond, and say, oh, all I could think of was Idris Elba. But Idris Elba's a Black Bond. I'd take that.
I think he would be amazing on it, because a lot of the work that I've seen him do since he became more prevalent, I have never seen him play a role poorly. Like, even his bit part, call it what it is, it really is a bit part in the MCU where he's Heimdall. Yeah. Dude, could you see anyone else playing that role besides him? I can't.
Not really.
It's like having Optimus Prime without Peter Cullen.
There's been other Optimus Primes.
Well, it's easier with movie characters that don't have a face to put on.
Yeah.
Then it's easier to find someone with the same type of voice and the same ability to project a voice. Not to mention the the technological abilities of a sound
Yes,
editor
Jay.
to
Yeah.
make it sound similar. But I see what you mean there still. But then again, I mean the James Bond thing. You can't play that card. Well, no, because a black actor or whatever it is can't play the right type of James Bond. I mean, it's not part of canon anymore. Then, and it's not true to Ian Fleming's works and so on. Well, hang on. If I remember correctly, very much like the original series of Star Trek,
Mm-hmm.
and looking at James Kirk. James Bond back then was a chauvinist. I'm not saying he was an asshole, but he was a chauvinist. He conquering all the girls and all that.
Oh yeah.
That has changed over time, so they can't even use that card. But I have heard people playing that card. It's just not part of canon, and
Well, they already made
it's
Kirk
just
a woman
based off
once.
sorry.
They already made Kirk a woman once before anyway. They did in the original series because they swapped bodies between those two. Remember that?
Yeah.
one episode?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well,
Well,
and,
that's like-
and
I thought you were talking about
Stand up and walk around
the
it.
original cast. I
I
thought you
am.
meant the. No, I thought you were talking about the original casted Captain James. James?
James,
What?
yeah.
Captain.
yeah.
Okay.
James
James
Tiberius Kirk.
Oh,
Hey, guys,
damn it.
I want to know.
Oh.
Actually, speaking
Catherine
of
Janeway.
speaking
Sorry.
of Kirk swapping bodies with this other woman, I want to know how the hell is it that either one of them could get up and walk around and still have their freaking balance within like seconds of the transfer occurring? Because that wouldn't happen. Because if you actually put if you put a man in a woman's body and vice versa, it actually changes your center of balance and your hips don't work the same.
But
And
Oh, come on.
but here's the
Federation
here's the
side.
thing. No, here's the thing. Only the consciousness moved. The physiology of the bodies remained the same.
But the consciousness would be part of your ability to understand the given. Okay, this is too nerdy, man.
no, I
All I can think of is you're transferring consciousness between two bodies, and that's the problem you have.
Problem? Come on, that would be cool. As long as you could take the memories with you. I'm thinking, oh yeah, change into a woman's consciousness, swapping with a woman's consciousness, and taking a lot of baths in communal baths or whatever you call them, in gyms or whatever, and taking those memories with you. I wouldn't complain.
Yeah. All right.
Next.
Hey, Jeff, do you have any more topics?
Oh no! At this point, we can go into what you wanted to talk about.
Oh, I thought we were going to talk about Trump for a bit, but that's okay.
Oh, pfft. Sorry.
Or not.
If we don't get into that within the first hour, fuck it.
I thought we already talked about Trump. We needed more to talk about with him?
Well, no, it's more going beyond just the mere mentioning of the people around him actually getting fucked over legally, and it's just a matter of time that it ends up something sticking to him. But
Well, that's just it. Trump hasn't done anything wrong by the numbers. Strictly speaking, he has not committed any crimes.
that we
No,
have
I mean,
been
he's
made
lying.
aware of to this point.
Yeah.
That is
I mean,
the
he is
rub.
lying his ass off when he speaks, but it's just, stupid lies. I have the biggest.
Okay, well-
it was the biggest, and blah blah blah. But he
Oh.
hasn't specifically done anything that way, as we know.
Well, name me one politician that doesn't lie. It's,
Oh,
a question.
Exactly.
It's actually
Yeah,
actually.
but the thing is,
How do you know a politician is lying? When their
His lips are moving.
Donald Trump is not a politician, but he sure as hell gives a good
Oh.
show of pretending like he's
Oh,
one.
he plays the part of one beautifully, because here's
Wink,
the thing.
wink. Yeah.
Politics and business are not that different.
No, they're really not.
No. And being in politics, you just have to hide being an asshole better. But Trump hasn't
Slightly.
learned that part yet.
Slightly, not much, just slightly. But so
Yeah.
go ahead, Squirrel, and broach what you were thinking about with the rest of the group.
Okay, so kind of what I want to go over is everybody's experiences in their initial in boot camp. Because I'm trying to put together a game that will involve that will involve a whole bunch of critters going to a corporate service academy, and we kind of want to talk about initial training and how maybe things should go while they're actually at the academy.
All right, are we talking truly corporate or more military corporate type of environment?
Well, this is actually a corporate military environment.
As in outsource a military unit environment, but it's outsourced
instead of being
company.
instead of being a national thing, it'll be a corporate thing. So think about how some of the dystopia.
They're actually living in a post. The people in question are actually living in a post-national world. You got 4 big corporations that have taken over after a rather nasty war that went on for entirely too long.
There's a series on Netflix that I'm reminded of. I can't remember what it's called though.
And whilst the corporations actually have their own militaries, the corporations themselves are only really funding it. These militaries more or less run themselves. It would be similar to.
It's basically a paid security force.
Kinda, except that they do treat themselves like active militaries.
Oh, come on. How many rent-a-cops have you met that don't see themselves as more than what they are?
I think I read that book. It's called Jennifer Government.
It actually works. The difference between it's run more like the United States military is, where you have a political class that provides the money, and then the military itself depends on its upper echelons to do for all of the other operations.
Well, the way I would look at it, and the biggest thing would be, you have to break apart and break down the individual. You really do have to almost dehumanize them within the first few weeks of training, and see how the recruits handle such stresses, because to work as an effective team in a military environment, you can't be thinking about your own fucking personal bullshit.
Even though you have them, you're still human. But yeah, that's what the psychological breakdown of the individual recruit. The Navy does it in 2 weeks. P1 through 5 and 1-1 through 1-5. They finish it up real hard on 1-5 day.
And the Danish army used to do that before I was a conscript, but they don't do it anymore. It's several decades ago since they had the time. I mean, back then it was 8 months as a conscript, and then you're off the hook, unless there's a war on. But that kind of discipline and just tearing people apart in order to build them up again. That tactic hasn't been used in over 20 years in Denmark. Probably more. Than years.
How about Alan? How about you guys?
When I went through, it was that's how it was. Break you down, build you back up. All the usual.
But as violently as you would see it depicted in the movies.
Never really violent, no.
No, it was
psychologically.
But what you see in the movies, I think, is always an exaggeration, isn't it? I mean, even for...
Well, there is one movie I have found that is actually probably the most accurate, especially for the time period that it was depicting. And that is The Boys of Company C. It wasn't as extreme as Full Metal Jacket with R. Lee Ermey, although he was playing essentially the same role in both of them. It was more subdued, it was more real in The Boys of Company C, where, yes, it was still verbally abusive, yes, it was still hard, but that's what boot camp is supposed to be. It is supposed to be a mental challenge, it's supposed to be a physical challenge, and it is supposed to instill what you need to know in order to survive. Not necessarily thrive, but survive the environment that you are going to be deployed into.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One more important part also is that in the U.S. There's different types of military systems. In Denmark, you don't you don't train. You don't go to boot camp in order to go to war. You go to boot camp because you're forced to it as a citizen. To get some basic training in case shit hits the fan and we have to defend the country. You can select yourself. I mean, you can, what do you call it? Elect to join voluntarily, and you go to through boot camp voluntarily, and then you can apply for deployment training, and then if you get approved, you can get deployed. In the U.S., I don't know how the system works there, but you don't have any conscription duty.
No.
So you can walk in from the street, go and apply, go through boot camp for that specific purpose to go to war in some capacity. That's your own choice voluntarily.
Yeah. So when you join the military in the U.S., right now it is an entirely volunteer service. Back during Vietnam, we actually did have the draft where all men of the age 18 years of age and older had to be registered for the draft. And when your number came up, you would then go to a processing station, which would essentially give the branches a chance to look you over. And it essentially the Marines went in and picked who they wanted. The Navy went in and picked who they wanted, and the Army got the rest.
Yeah,
literally.
Also,
yes.
There was also a special saying at the time: if you don't want to be drafted, enlist.
Exactly, and that
Did
was
you at least use your branch then?
You would be able to choose your branch in that case.
But Jared,
the rule
Army just
18 to 35. If you were over 35, you were considered immune.
Yep.
Letting
35 now, you no longer have to register.
But Jared, letting the Army just pick up the leftovers, would that be because of the fact that as I understand it anyway, that most of military engagement by the U.S. has always been done by either, and I'm talking about regular military here, either the Navy or the Marines, and not Army. Is that the reason?
The first step whenever we deploy to a region, the Navy and Marines show up first. The Army come in after.
Last, I mean.
Not necessarily last, but so let's look at 2003 Iraq. The Marines, because of how they're deployed and how rapidly we can deploy them through amphibious means, they were the first ones to the staging area.
You misunderstood me here. I meant back when you had the draft.
Same thing.
You said
the deployment means for large-scale land operations have not really changed much for the U.S. military since the 50s.
Actually, it's been more or less the same since we've had perfectly good aircraft.
Yeah. So when you look at it, the Marines, because they have such a focus towards the job that they do of hitting the beachhead and creating a foothold and getting everything rolling, they will, depending on the schedules and where it is and what troops are available, it would either be the Army and Marines showing up at the same time, or the Marines getting there a day or up to a week ahead of time and kind of pre-stage and would be there at the outset. Part of that being the Marines can deploy quicker than the Army can to most areas because of that joint Navy Marine Corps team that we treat all combat operations with.
Yeah, because they train strictly for the job, not how to get to the job, so to speak.
Well,
They leave
Well,
that up
both.
they train us.
basically
They
to
train
the-
both
to
of us to teach to get them to the job.
Yeah, but still, it sits wrong with me that you said that during the draft, when you your numbers up and all that, that everybody gets to pick their subjects, so to speak, but
Mhm.
not the army. They get what's left over. It just
No.
sounds wrong to
The
me.
army assigns based on, or the military people assign based on what they need. In the case of the draft, if they need a bunch more riflemen, that's what they're going to train everybody for. If they need a basic military journalist, that's what they're going to train for. If they need whatever they happen to need, wherever it is they happen to need it, when they draft people, they assign them to whatever job that they happen to need, that they require in whatever place they require it.
Yeah, but
But yeah, I would imagine that at the draft that you get assigned to the
Yes.
branch.
If
But
you
not-
enlist, on the other hand, you get to pick what service you're going to, and to at least some degree, in the case of a draft, what you're going to be doing.
On the flip side, the Army is getting the leftovers for the most part, because in that whole process where they're talking about of them selecting kind of who they need, all the technical, there's going to be a lot more stringent criteria for what the Army and with like the Navy and the Air Force and stuff are going to look for, because most of them are going to be getting mostly technicians is what they're going to be looking for, a lot of technical people.
yeah, exactly. You're not going to have a lot of basic
Okay,
jobs
so
opening up in the Navy and Air Force, especially because the majority of the people who are serving in those branches are not true frontline combat. But then the Marines have their higher standard to begin with, which is why they get to go in before the Army and pick essentially the cream of the crop of who they think can cut it in the Marines, because they are a smaller force, always have been, always will be, but they also have a higher standard and stricter requirements to get in, even if you enlist. And
So to be a bit saucy, it comes back to what I said at the beginning, maybe even before we went on air, that the army is the cannon fodder.
yes,
In terms of not education, but the needed skill level as a whole is lower than the needed skill level as a whole for the Navy or the Air Force, or
Hold on,
maybe
Ryan.
not the Air Force, but the Marines or the Navy.
We don't call them cannon fodder. It's bullet catcher now.
or bullet
thanks.
Bullet
sponge.
Yeah, I can contest to that. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but that's
Thanks.
where
For the reminder.
well, and that's where each branch, the way the U.S. utilizes the military during large operations, really has their niche. They have their pieces of the puzzle that they fit together to implement the entire battle plan. Where a way to look at it is the Marines are a scalpel, whereas the Army is a butcher's knife.
More like a very heavy club.
I was trying to be nice.
I like the butcher analogy, because I've seen butchers do their magic, not at a butcher's shop, but at the industry level butchers. Damn, those guys are fast, and some of them don't even wear metal
Kevlar?
ringed.
Yeah.
Well,
Metal ringed gloves,
the analogy works though.
like
just because,
chainmail.
The battlefield the commanders are the butcher. The foot soldiers are the tools.
Yeah, the butcher.
Yeah.
The butcher. But then I don't know. I mean, I was driving around with a couple of Stinger missiles when I was conscript. I mean, I wouldn't call that being a butch EE.
Well, no, it's
That was the
so.
precision.
So you're the
Uh,
tool. You're the
get the
tool,
point.
not the
Yeah,
butcher.
well,
No, I
that
used the tool. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
well, that's where so the generals are the butcher. The people making and implementing and controlling the battle plan are the butcher. You, as the boots on the ground, you are the meat cleaver. You are the chosen implement of the plan.
Mhm.
And
And
that's
still, any way you cut it, every part is essential for the job anyway.
Yeah,
It-
you need
Well, except maybe for a couple of the generals who just push around paper. But then again,
well, but then again,
Pencil general.
we do need supply. We do need supply to run properly. Otherwise, the force will
Oh, yeah.
fall apart. And that was
then
actually
I-
but it still signals that is the most important. Otherwise, you can't get any supplies.
Yep.
You can't call for supplies.
yeah.
Yeah,
It,
so I just
never
used to
end-
cook
the
them with the
never-ending
microwave.
discussion. Yeah, the never-ending discussion about what type of service is the most important.
Well, that's the thing. I will be honest and say that while the different groups within a branch and in between the branches, we give each other a huge ration of shit. When it comes down to it, everyone has their job. Everyone has what they're good at, and you need to all recognize that in order for it all to work. And
Of course.
It's sibling rivalry. You
oh
know,
yeah, it really is.
It's essential to having fun while working. I mean, as long as it isn't, as long as it doesn't get corporal, it's okay. And I've never seen it getting physical. Those kinds of discussions. Well, except for the nightclubs, Thursday nights. When I was
clearly
a
you've never
conscript.
been on a submarine.
Wow. But I have been to a couple of nightclubs on a Thursday night when I was a conscript, and that didn't go down well. When M109 crews, throws down with together with air defense army guys, that's us, against the what are they called? Artillerymen. Can't remember what type they're. We call them self-propelled haubits.
Oh,
Can't
the
remember what
howitzer.
Yeah, but it's
The
a
self-propelled
tank, but it just
howitzer.
can't-
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Ah, damn it.
Designations.
Yeah, I
for
think
it.
the UK uses them as well, and the US Army actually. It's a 109 millimeter shell tank. I can't remember what they're called, but those guys.
Yeah, I can see. I know the weapon system you're talking about. A guy that I was stationed with in Florida was prior service, prior Army, and that's the platform that he worked on.
Yeah, and if memory serves, the Canon platform was based on an M113 MPC,
Hmm.
I think.
So anyway,
Based
back
on
to the whole
heavily
training
modified.
thing.
Sorry?
Back to the whole training thing. Let's do an overview.
Uh-oh, training.
All right. Anybody remember what week 2 was?
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time
For us,
ago.
it was-
I'm kind of fuzzy on it.
Plus, it was still learning how to march.
Well, yeah, we
I wanna
had.
say it was
Lots and lots
more-
of marching and PT
I did not
and
know how
marching.
to, I did not have to learn how to march. So
You didn't have to learn how to walk?
Well,
Wow.
week 2 in boot camp when I went through, which was 02, was ramped up focus on PT, the true beginning of drill, and also the beginning of the classroom stuff.
Right.
Well,
It's the
well, to be
classroom
fair,
stuff
as
I'm
in-
not remembering.
we did marching and stuff, but I mean, I didn't learn how to march. I was immediately made a supervisor because I basically was in marching band for most of my middle school and high school years. So
Well, and I got out of it because that first night I was assigned the division yeoman, which means I went out and formed up with the division, but then I was sent flying to go get everything set up and wait for everyone else to show up after. And no, Matt, Pure Anarchy is not on the panel. He's a lazy son of a bitch that never responds to the link, even though he's on the Discord server and has access.
Okay.
He's afraid of something, I guess.
Nah, I could directly message him and hound him a little bit more, but
Yeah.
you know what,
Does
Matt?
he happen to be Air Force?
No, he
Maybe
was
that's why?
he was Army.
Ah, crap. I shouldn't have said that. Then.
U.S. Army.
Yep. Yeah, he lives down in Texas.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
my
even-
Texas. My condolences.
But see,
Hey,
that's the
it
thing.
beats Florida.
There are people, we do have access to a diverse group of people to join in. It's just whether or not they choose to. Like Dragnot, he was an Army medic. He'll be in here the weeks that he can make it. Same thing with Jay Packett. He will be in here the weeks he can make it. And he was Army. Pure Anarchy
And Pupianator,
has...
who doesn't have all that much time to join in, but
Yeah.
he did today.
Yep, that he
Yeah.
did. He was here at the beginning of it. And that's the thing. It's just getting more of a little more regularity from the other branches. But yeah, week 2 was the beginning of, at least on the Navy side, the beginning, the classroom work for naval history, uniform requirements, and basic seamanship.
Right. I seem to require that week 4. I seem to recall that week 4 included our firearms evolution.
That was
week 5. Week 5 now.
No, week 5 was service week for me.
No, he's right.
Did you say
Week
firearms
5
evolution?
Yeah, week
I'm
4
just
was
curious here.
week 4 was firearms. Week 5 was service week.
Right.
Week 6 and 7 and up to 8
Damage
were
control and firefighting. I remember.
yeah.
Yep.
And then
DCF.
week 9, depending on if you were leaving right after graduation or not,
Yeah. Trying to remember.
Here goes Squirrel.
Was week 5? Well, yeah. See, during service week, it wasn't the full week, so we actually did our firearms right after service week, because it was only a couple day thing.
we did ours week 4, if I remember correctly. I just sent you another link, Squirrel, called NavyDads.com. It kind of gives a basic rundown, not entirely accurate, but like as far as P days versus week 1, so on and so forth. So
Yeah, well, that's close enough. Like I said, it's been a long ass time.
Yeah. Well, and another thing to remember is, so like week 4, right before service week, you have your initial drill evaluation and your initial PT test.
Mm.
And then it was week 7 was final drill and the final PT, and also the Ricky Olympics.
oh yeah, Ricky Olympics.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah, because week 8 was final classroom stuff. Anyone who had to redo the swim and firefighting and prep for battle stations.
Yeah, weeks. I believe it was 6 one day. We were all in the gas chamber.
Oh, that was week
that late.
that
Respirator test facility.
That was fairly early in
I
ours.
think that's the
That was like week
Correct
3,
name.
I think, for
Yeah.
us.
so it might have been 4 for my division. It was either right before or right after service week.
Mine was before.
It was right after service week, but then we wound our service week was like 10 or 12 days.
Oh yeah, no, ours was 4.
You got away with 4? Damn, we had to do like 10.
I had like 7. I had a full week in the galley.
Ours is just a week.
Yeah, ours was only 4. It might have been 5 days. It wasn't the full week. But then again, I went later. I got there September, so by time service week came around for us, there were a lot of fucking divisions there to close out the year. So they didn't need us for the entire week. They didn't need us for the weekend.
Well, by the time I went to Orlando, they were already starting to wind down, so we didn't have as many people on hand.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so that makes sense on why they would make that longer for you. See, when I went through, the only boot camp was Great Lakes.
Yeah, well, Great Mistakes is Great Mistakes. They do things a little different. They did things a little differently than we did in Orlando.
Yeah.
I still have my rudder.
So,
oh, and actually, speaking of still having something, so a few weeks ago, I went digging through some stuff, and tell me if you know what the sound of this is. Take a lot.
BMRs.
No,
No?
even earlier.
Knock your forehead against the.
Boondogger?
No. What is the first book you are given when you get to boot camp?
The Art of War? Nah,
No.
not that specific.
No, it's the.
Gave you a book.
yeah, they
the-
give you a book.
The Blue Jackets
Define
manual.
Oh,
Nope.
yeah.
Never saw it.
I
Okay,
heard
I've
about
heard
it.
of
We
Yellow
didn't get
Jackets,
those.
Yeah, I've
Really?
heard of
You
Yellow
guys-
Jackets, but Blue Jackets? What the hell?
So
That's a Navy thing.
So Navy enlisted are known as Blue Jackets,
Right.
especially
Ah,
E6 and below.
Okay.
The mock-up destroyer we had at Orlando was called the USS Blue Jacket.
Yeah. That's as close to Blue Jacket as any of us got, I think.
They never gave out the Blue Jacket. I mean, I know they had some, but they didn't hand it out at Orlando. At least not when I was in there. And it sounds like, because I mean, I was there before the wind down, so we were there probably close to the same time. Because I went through a few years before they shut the RTC down. So.
Yeah, I'd hate to have been that last company to pass and review at Orlando because their service week had to have been painful.
Oh, yeah.
There was literally one company at for the entire RTC.
Well, the painful but useful for them because they would have mostly been nukes anyway. So.
Got it over with early. See, and that's the thing. So
If I remember correctly, they moved the nukes to Groton.
No, Nukes in Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah. They
Oh,
moved it to-
my bad.
They ironically
So we
opened up
need
part
a-
of a base they closed to move it there to close Orlando.
Yeah, they have 2 options, actually. They have 2 options. There's Charleston, South Carolina, and then there's also one up in New York somewhere, too.
Well, the you're talking about prototypes there,
Yeah.
but the A schools and Power School is in Charleston.
Yeah.
So this is the time where we need Stephen Crane here because he was a nuke.
Well, I was going in. They had multiple
Always,
power
yeah.
because they had. I remember people could. They had the one in Charleston still. There was New York. There was Idaho.
Yeah.
yeah,
They
my
still have the
dad,
submarine testing facility out in Idaho.
yeah, my dad went through prototype in Idaho. That's actually while he was out there. That's when my sister was born. Holy shit!
Oh,
I found the original lyrics to Anchors Away instead of the fucking bastardized frickin' PC version that's out now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, this one they're actually allowed to talk about drinking.
Yeah.
share that sucker.
Oh, it's in the book, and I don't have an actual camera on the computer.
You don't have one of those combined printers, coffee maker, photo scanner, fax machine.
Look at this! Look at this! Combination hookah
Flashlight.
and coffee maker. Also make chili and fries. Will not
Okay,
break.
I'm sure they
Will
make them
not.
somewhere.
It broke.
So if you guys could put together your vision of a military academy, what would it look like?
How familiar are
what's that
you
movie
with?
called?
Well, how familiar are you with Starship Troopers?
Yeah, that's the one I was.
Very fine.
That's about where I would be.
The book or the movie?
Yeah.
You know what? You know what?
It never happened.
You know what? I love the books more than the movies, but for visual aspect, the training bits of it that they showed in the movies, you gotta love Drill Sergeant Zim.
Well, yeah. You can love Zim all you want, but you know what? But you know what the sad part of it is? Zim was actually a much better character in the book.
Oh, I agree. That's the thing. I love the books more, but when it comes to the movie, the whole way of, like, freaking... Sorry, I still remember him as Rube Baker, not the cornbread guy that he played in Starship Troopers. But it's like, oh, no, it was Ace. It was fucking Gary Busey's kid. It's like, why do we need a knife in a fucking nuke fight? All you have to do is push a button. Put your hand on that wall. Huh? Put your hand on that wall. Whack! If you disable your opponent's hand, he can't push a button. Rips the knife out. Medic!
Yeah, I remember that clearly. But again, in my opinion, that movie never happened.
What?
It's not
That
the
movie
book,
can't-
but it's
exist.
funny, but it's not.
Okay.
Funny movie, man. Come
Okay,
on.
Squirrel.
It was so much over the top. It was hilarious.
Exactly. And you really have to look at Starship Troopers between the book and the movie the same way you have to look at the Dune saga between the books and the original movie. The original movie, while based on the book, had to take creative license to make it a more watchable movie.
Well, again, we didn't get our mobile infantry suits, and yeah, that was terrible. Well, the first time we actually got a mobile infantry suit wasn't until like the third movie, and poor Johnny, he was considered an outlaw by then. Fuck that noise.
Yeah, see, I didn't watch the second or third because I realized, they're not going to be up to snuff. But
Like I said, the movie wasn't the book, but it was funny. But the sequels were crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Matrix, where many people refuse to believe that the Matrix ever existed.
Well, and here's the thing. So
Later movies didn't exist.
So who here has seen the miniseries version of Dune and also the theatrical version from 1984?
I did.
I only saw the theatrical version.
I've
Okay.
only seen the
Just the theatrical version.
Oh, okay. So there is a miniseries that the Sci-Fi Channel did back when they were still about sci-fi and not fucking monsters. And they did it as literal to the Dune Saga books as you could be. And it was a shit miniseries. It was beautifully accurate to the book, but a fucking pain to watch.
So Nim has it right
We
then.
sit there for 6 hours at a stretch.
Some books don't make good movies, but they are awesome books. That comes down to.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Jared, Nim has it right.
Oh yeah.
Sorry about that, folks. Kids
Let-
are over there loud.
Let me put it this way, and Nim, you'll probably agree with me. Forcing someone to watch the entire miniseries of one installment of the Dune Saga from Sci-Fi Channel would be a great torture technique.
I agree. I agree completely.
And the reason why is while I love Frank Herbert for how eloquently he will describe the most mundane shit, his books have horrible pacing for the first 2/3 of it. And then the last third is so fucking action-packed and so beautifully put together that it ends too quickly.
Yeah, then when you're done with a 1,000-page epic, you're looking at it like, was that 2 different books?
But then again, doesn't all the good stuff end too quickly anyway? Well, for men anyway.
Only if you don't know how to contain yourself.
Oh, so it's not just for seamen; it's everyone. Then. Right.
Yeah.
If you like any Sherlock Holmes tales, that happens a lot as well. There's a lot of times
Yeah.
the character of Watson, for example, most of the time when someone does a show, like a movie of Sherlock Holmes,
Mhm.
they don't know what to do with Watson because he's effectively, in the book, he's the eyes of the audience. But
So-
since you don't need an eyes of an audience when you're actually doing a movie, they have no idea what to do with them, end up turning him to comic relief.
You know what? And
But
I
to
will
be honest,
have
the
to
newer
say.
series.
Yeah, I will have to say. So the BBC series with
That was done well.
done well, but also the Guy Ritchie movies with Robert Downey Jr. that were more of the period piece, also done well for what they are.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed both of those versions of Sherlock because it's presented to you in the text of a memoir from Watson, rather like the books are, rather than trying to bring Watson into the storyline itself.
Well, he could be there. It's
I
just
can't
they try to turn him into an inept fool in a lot of
In a lot
television
of
versions.
Yeah, in a lot of
Yeah.
the versions prior to the most recent two, which I agree. And that's where, and also the casting that they did. I mean, having Jude Law paired with Robert Downey Jr., it worked. I wasn't sure of it at first, but then actually seeing the product on screen, it fucking worked. They got it right with that pairing. But then with Benedict Cumberbatch and
Martin Freeman.
Yeah,
Freeman.
Martin Freeman.
That was
Those
done
two,
beautifully.
perfect fucking pairing for him, especially with setting it in more of the modern, setting it in the modern age. It was beautifully done and
They
beautifully
were modern
cast.
versions of the classic characters, and it was perfectly done. Yeah.
And I'll even say this: their choice and their casting in the way they handled Moriarty, even though it wasn't as eloquent as during the original books, or it wasn't handled in the same way that they did with the movies, it worked in the series.
I've never been much of a book reader, but the more modern iterations of, well, the versions of Sherlock Holmes, you know, the series called Elementary, where you have Lucy Liu as
Watson,
Dr. Joan Watson.
Yeah.
I mean, the character there, the Watson character there, does at least have something to do. But I have no idea how it relates to the books. But I don't own that series on the shelf, but I don't mind that one. Though
I don't care for how they've done because the Sherlock in there doesn't really grab me. But yeah, Lucy Liu does she makes a decent female version of a Watson character. I mean, her character's done well in my opinion, but the rest of it I just haven't got into. So
yeah, she's a better Watson than Holmes in that same series does a Sherlock Holmes impersonation, or how you would say that.
I also liked how they cast both Mycroft.
I mean, that's kind of weird, but
in the Robert Downey Jr. movies and the Benedict Cumberbatch TV series, I like how they casted and portrayed Mycroft Holmes in both of those too.
Yes.
Of course, you can't go wrong with Stephen Fry.
I thought in the books that Mycroft was a complete ass.
He is.
Well, yeah. And you're saying you're saying he's not when he's played by Gaddis or by Fry. Sure. Okay, Mycroft is a slightly more tolerable asshole compared to Sherlock. But he's still a fucking Holmes. He's still an asshole. That's got to be like a family trait.
Would seem. All right.
Oh, God, I forgot about that one.
What one?
So the meme that came up, this is how safety briefs start.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, did they happen to when they were doing history? Did they happen to show you the tale of the Forrestal?
That was brought up in firefighting training, not in the history.
Well, yeah, where bombs wound up getting dropped on the deck and set the whole ship on fire.
Yep, that was actually the opening to firefighting training.
Yeah, 6 day.
Subschool damage control was more interesting than the boot camp one. So.
Yes, definitely was.
Jay, I finally watched that submarine. I think submarine
documentary
instruction. It's way too short. Where's the rest?
Yeah.
Where's the rest of it? That was really interesting though. That YouTube video.
Yeah, I found it at one point, but I think it got pulled because it's a lot of the submarine documentaries are done by like Nat Geo or the BBC, and they'll pull on copyright strikes. So yeah,
finding that kind of thing on YouTube would be difficult at best.
All right, so Strike actually brought up a good question. What about the Moriarty as portrayed in Star Trek: The Next Generation?
Yes,
that's true.
That was well done.
That was good.
You know what? And I have to say, so it had to have been done that well for one reason only, and that was the genesis of the computer creating that version. And what was it that? What does anyone remember the line that Data said? The command he gave the computer.
It was
LaForge.
LaForge. Yeah.
It was one that Data could possibly not beat, or something like that.
Create an adversary that can beat Data.
Create an adversary of adequate performance for Data. And holy fuck, did it do it!
Hold on, just a second here.
Let's actually pull it up.
But the thing is, that wouldn't even be possible, would it? I mean, thinking about the ship's massive memory banks, the ship's computer's massive memory banks aside, Data was a stronger computer than the ship's computer, wasn't it?
By processing power, he was slightly less capable. However,
okay, fair enough, because that would be.
However, the way he was designed and the way he was built, he had something that the computer of the ship inherently lacked.
Sentient.
Intuition.
Creativity.
Adaptation, creativity.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So I'm listening to the episode, so I'm gonna turn you guys down a bit.
What? You don't want to just look up the quote? Come on.
Oh, but why get the quote when I can actually get the whole audio?
Oh yeah, get running through the movie and series and well, why not? Oh, that's the sad part. They've pulled. I used to binge watch every single episode of every single series, apart from Deep Space Nine. I don't know why. I've never completed that whole series, but everything else. Every once in a while, binge watch the whole shebang on Netflix, but I can't do that anymore. I've used Unblock US for years now, and that they have served me well in terms of finding things I want to watch on Netflix, but not in my own country. I can just flip over to a different country's Netflix content, but I can't anymore.
So I have found that the entirety of the series, the TV series content for Star Trek, outside of Discovery, is still available on Hulu, not Netflix.
Yeah, but I don't have access.
I found
to
it all
Hulu.
on Netflix.
I could probably sign up for Hulu, but
it's just as cheap as Netflix.
I have DVD and box sets of everything, so.
I think that I once tried to get one of those get 1 month free memberships of Hulu, but I wasn't allowed to.
Oh, that sucks. Well, and here's the thing, Tech. So
geography.
The movies are no longer streaming on either of them that I'm aware of, but I have all of those on DVD. It's the series themselves.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So Psystrike, DS9 title track, the Bach of TV show intros. Yes. I have to agree.
Oh yeah.
Although
the theme was awesome. That's
a close runner-up, like ass hair close runner-up, the opening musical score to Star Trek VI.
6.
Undiscovered Country.
Yeah.
Talk about
I have a problem with,
an
putting them
epic.
together. Yeah.
Talk about an epic intro music.
There's a lot of them. I mean, a lot of the intro musics, a lot of them are pretty good.
Well, I
'Cause
mean,
I like the intro. I like the intro to the Wrath of Khan. I like the intro. I like the intro music for Generations.
If unless I remember it completely incorrectly, the title music for the Babylon 5 series, it matches the quality of the DS9 theme, I think.
A lot
if I remember it correctly. I'm not sure, but
you are correct. They do have a similar gravitas to it, but at the same time, DS9 and Babylon 5 had a lot of concurrent runtime. Like the series were on, and there were always a lot of comparisons between the two because really they were each other's main competitors for viewership.
Yeah, but still, if they were produced and aired in the latest couple of years for the first time, I wouldn't be surprised if they made a what do you call it? A plug. What do you call it? Way. For example, you have a Predator and Avian. Those two.
Crossover.
Those franchises. Crossover. That's the word. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they made a crossover at some point. It didn't. I mean, it wouldn't happen today, but
no, and they didn't. It would have been interesting. There's been some fan fiction done of trying to do that.
Yeah, but Babylon 5 is much more political.
I hear that never goes well.
Generally, between franchises, no. Having crossovers within a franchise, like when you look at Emissary, the pilot for DS9, you have a touch of TNG there at the same time. And also around the same time that happened, there were also another minor crossover episode of TNG where they touched upon DS9 as well, that actually took place around the same time. That's why you actually have a scene where Dr. Bashir is on the Enterprise in in sick bay, and then he has a conversation with Data.
Mm-hmm. But that's another thing. All the series in the Star Trek universe, in modern times at least, I know it can be hard. I mean, if you put all the series together, how many episodes are there actually?
A lot.
Hundreds. Every single
close to 500
series. Yeah, every single series have more or less copy pasted episode. What do you call it? Episode
really
synopsises.
I mean, there was a lot of
between them.
There was a lot of copy paste between like the first season of TNG and some TOS episodes. There was quite a bit of copying of TNG. TNG copying some TOS storylines, but that kind of ended after the second season. So
yeah,
okay.
But I mean I loved Star Trek Enterprise, the one with Scott Bakula as the captain. Can't remember his on-screen name there, but
Captain
Archer. Jonathan.
I was Captain Archer. Yeah, Jonathan Archer. I was so disappointed. I mean, it was a good series until they got their budget slashed, but I was kind of disappointed when they started noticing that some of the episodes were practically just copy pasted from the other series.
they pulled some stuff. The entire thing
These
with
are
Enterprise,
okay,
though, it actually followed the original series. Like even how its production and how the studio treated it was exactly what happened with TOS.
But I mean,
talking about
you-
Enterprise, I had to step away for
Yeah.
a moment.
Yeah, and I
when
have
we're
the-
talking about
quote.
Star Trek, what the hell?
It was either that or let the dog take a piss right in front of the door.
Ah,
So in the
Oh, you
it's
need
the
to
quote.
get your locks smart home enabled and or teach the dog how to open.
Oh, sorry, you can't quite put a dog door into a screen door.
No, but teach a dog to open it still.
yeah, good luck with that. You can teach your dog how to open a
Well-
screen door, but generally not around doorknobs. They don't do that well.
Yeah,
screen door.
My
something
last dog did.
something
Unless
about
they have a dog meat from Fallout 4, in which case doors are not a problem.
well, and there's
Well, hey,
there's this
I don't know
there's
how
this whole
screen
thing
doors work.
about
I mean, so
they're the outside weather doors.
yeah, but except weather, or it's just a net to avoid insects coming in,
Yeah,
right?
They're called storm doors.
storm doors in some
Yeah,
areas. Yeah,
I actually thought they were literally just held up against the door frame by a spring, and that was it.
No.
No
There's
locking
still a-
mechanism
no,
or
there's still
latching
a
or
latch.
whatever.
there's
Huh.
still a latch
they
and
make-
doorknob.
A toddler safety device, maybe.
Ah,
Not for security purposes,
Uh,
I would imagine.
Let's put it this way: a child could open it easier than a dog for one reason. Opposable
Opposable
finger.
thumbs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But again, smart home enabled doorknobs, they do exist. Or make one for yourself.
Except here's the thing: your screen doors are hydraulically actuated to close on their own.
and they're made primarily out of metal mesh and glass.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Hey,
it's
in
not
my-
a practical.
In my universe, no, but in my universe, I do my best to never see anything as a problem. I see it as a task or a challenge.
Yeah, good luck teaching a hyperactive canine to operate a doorknob.
Yeah. No.
Oh, you know what?
Mine
I
didn't
actually
need
forgot
teaching.
that what you use to open a door is literally a knob.
Yeah,
I never understood why. I mean, it must be hell for having an elderly person visit you and they have to fight to open a door because of arthritis.
oh no, because generally arthritis it just curls your hand so it actually works towards that.
Fits better. Yeah, well, I mean, in Denmark, most other countries, I would imagine, it's literally just you can. I mean, yeah, when I come home, except for unlocking the door with my key, I literally just open the door with my ass if I have my hands full. It's just a lever, just like a toilet a flush lever to operate when I want to go in. That in that case, it would be easy to teach the dog to open it. But I can see if the problem if it's a knob.
Yeah. Dogs don't operate knobs well.
Well, except for their own. But then
No,
again,
they don't even operate those.
they can lick-
They don't even really operate those very well.
no,
Well,
they
you
have
could
to
always-
use that rocket trick. Yeah.
You could always use an automatic door opener and just put an RFID chip in the dog's collar.
Mm-hmm.
Dog walks up to door opens.
Yeah, and set up some rules to set up some rules so it can't do it unless you're actually home yourself.
Yeah.
Ta-da.
In fact, I'm considering getting an automatic door opener for my front door so that when I come up towards it in my wheelchair, the RFID opens the door for me.
Actually, Nim has one here. You can teach a cat to use the toilet, and dogs have twice the neural density.
Yeah, but it's still a lever or a push button to operate the toilet, and not the twisting of a knob.
True.
See that?
But then again,
that
I'm sure that
really.
if you go to a brick and mortar shop or IKEA for that matter, you can easily find a door handle to put in instead of the knob.
So my last German Shepherd could open doors with knobs on.
I'm impressed.
Well, that's a
From the in,
that's a German Shepherd, not a lab.
and not only that, but these were doors that opened towards the dog.
Oh,
So she had to turn the knob and pull the door open.
with her
Okay,
teeth.
Jared does have a point though. I mean, I had a lab as a kid. Well, it was a mix of a lab and a German Shepherd, with pig's ears. It wasn't exactly the smartest dog in the world.
Well, no, but then your average lab is big. It is big, furry, and just plain stupid. Those things are just.
But it's fun to watch YouTube videos of labs having a nightmare and, waking up all of a sudden and then running headfirst into a wall. I kind of want to watch that YouTube video now. That always breaks me up. So this is this is the usual try to connect the dots, but won't succeed thing. How do you start from censorship or Alex Jones free speech and all that to dogs, whether or not dogs are able to open a door?
Well, you just said it right there. We were talking about Alex Jones and Trump, and sorry, but the dogs are smarter.
Even the labs.
It's very unfair. I think it's very unfair to compare Alex Jones and Trump to a dog. It's very unfair.
Yeah, poor dogs. Yeah.
Dog.
Gotta love it.
Damn.
We'll have to grade on a curve again.
That's a pretty big curve.
Yeah, but thankfully it's not linear; it's logarithmic.
It would have to
Where's
be.
that all confused Alex Jones and Trump?
I think there's an easy way to confuse them. Have any of you seen those videos where it's the magic trick to see how your dog or other animal react?
Yes.
And you stand in a doorway,
Oh.
hold up a sheet, and
move
then
away
let it go.
quickly?
Then let it go and disappear.
Yeah.
I could see that completely confounding both of them. It's almost like when you take a baby's nose.
You need to try a simpler trick like the rubber pencil trick for them.
Oh, well, yeah.
And I just remember something. A good long while ago, someone threw a kick-ass joke in a live chat somewhere. I have to share it this time. It's Star Trek related. Why is a roll of toilet paper like Star Trek?
So
Why?
It goes around Uranus looking for Klingons.
Nice. Although I remember that joke from growing up, but it wasn't how Star Trek is like it. It was specifically about the Starship Enterprise.
all right, let's see here.
Oh God, what
Okay,
are
that
you
one's
looking
not-
up now?
Oh, you should be afraid.
Very afraid.
Is it a thesis written by Debbie Duran? And can you read it?
Oh God.
I don't think we have enough crayons for her to be able to write out a thesis.
Thesis?
Well,
I think you're using too strong of a term there.
I don't know. Somebody gave Kent Hovind enough finger paint to write one.
Oh, fingerprint is
Oh,
easy.
have you actually read it?
Hello,
though?
my name is Kent Hovind.
Yeah, I have it on my computer. I actually spent the time reading. I couldn't finish. It
You
was
read
so
it?
hard.
You read Ken Hoven's thesis?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got it on my
What?
computer
Retarded.
too.
What is wrong with you?
I wanted to.
What's wrong
read
with you,
that
Jared,
for
with your
myself.
video suggestion for tonight?
Entirety.
Hey, you know what? I had to change up the type of suggestion that it was. And you know what? I was laughing when I started watching it, and I'm like, oh, I have to suggest this. I have no idea why it came across my recommended, but I had to share it with everyone.
Uh-oh.
Oh no!
Might
When
wanna
I
help the
just saw the
audience
title
to
and I
know
was
what
just
it
like,
is you're
oh
talking
god,
about.
that is a huge amount of stupid to go through in one night.
And here's the thing. If I remember right, it's only an 8-minute long movie.
I'm sure it was. Let's see.
Ooh.
Yeah, but that still
Oh.
get ramps up easily to at least 4 hours.
All right. So here's the suggestion: the Lost History Channel. The Stargate is real.
History.
Portal
channel.
within the Great Ziggurat of Ur. To which my
What?
response, yeah, the Stargate is real, and it is in the Great Ziggurat of Ur.
But I can only think cigarette. Cigarette? What the hell?
Zig, Ziggurat. Basically, the predecessor of the pyramids.
Yeah.
Anyways, I responded, I don't think there's enough alcohol in the world to protect anyone's brain from this much stupid. And I've only just read the title. Are you trying to kill us? Jared's response to me.
Trying to give us freaking alcohol poisoning.
Oh.
Do you want to read yours,
Let's
Jared?
No, go ahead and read my response since I can't.
Maybe I am, or maybe I'm just showing the superiority of the military-trained liver. To which I responded, we both know the military liver is well trained. Even our brains are trained to deal with high levels of stupidity. But I think this will make the audience brain dead before the alcohol poisoning. And then Jared said, hey, at least it's not a flat earth. And then Elon said, I voted in. And I said, okay, a change would be nice. I might even join the panel. And then Mr. Nielsen added, clap, 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 Stargate, thumbs up.
Well, hey, it has Stargate in it. I mean, come on.
I like Stargate. It was pretty good.
Something.
I like the
mean,
movie.
People
Wasn't a fan of the
some
shows.
people dislike the SG-1, but
Oh, I loved SG-1
I like them all. Yeah, I like
I
them all.
did,
liked
I
it.
just didn't care for him.
See,
for different reasons. But
I was really starting to get into Stargate Universe, but then they put the entire thing into suspended animation and were like, nope, you're not going to see it ever again. Fuck you.
we're gonna put everybody in suspended animation, leave the one guy out who has to fix the thing or he'll die,
and
and
then
then we're gonna cancel it.
yeah. It's like, you sons of bitches.
Here you go, Jared.
I pretty much liked all the Stargate shows because I liked Atlantis as well.
You know, and
They
here's
were all
the
good
thing.
in
With,
different ways.
I'm with Picard here. Or as Q would call him, Pickard. Gotta love the Q continuum.
oh, I've seen that one before, and it is so fucking true.
Well, I think it was, and Jared, you're probably already subscribed to him. Lore Reloaded, I think it is.
Yes. Yeah.
That
So funny
the
thing.
red shirt thing.
Well, so funny thing with him. I commented on one of his videos during his Starfleet uniform series, and he got a little pissy.
Oh, yeah?
I've never even watched his commentary, comment section. So
Well,
I
so
just
he was. The comment was, so he was talking about the TOS era uniforms and how the rank insignia was done by striping on the bottom of the sleeves of the uniform. Started talking about Gene's affinity for the U.S. Navy and how the Navy would use similar types of representations to denote rank. The image he showed were Army dress Class A variant uniforms.
That
So
would be wrong.
where is the rank insignia on all of those uniforms?
The shoulder.
The shoulder for the officers, the upper arm for the enlisted, not the bottom of the sleeves. So I just pointed out, it's like, love your work, but when you talked about this part of it, and you were talking about the Gene's affinity for naval tradition and everything, the image you then show was of an army uniform where the rank was not in the same location as the comparison you were making.
I just have to watch that part. Do you remember which of the 5 episodes you?
I can dig it up after and link you over to it, because a lot of people were like trying to defend him, and some people were with me on pointing it out. It's like, and essentially what it came down to is the guy who helped him with the media side of it said, it's like, well, if you can find a fair use, large, high-res image of the naval uniforms that show the striping, good on ya. I couldn't. And I come back, it was like, funny, I just found one in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, I can imagine why he got pissy.
But here's the thing.
Is not up to snuff.
But here's the thing. Lore himself came back after and actually apologized. It's like, you know what? People have been saying I came off as overly snarky and everything. I apologize. I've been dealing with some shit personally. So, to which I responded, I was like, no offense taken. I probably came off a bit snarkier than I expected to as well. So, fair point. But if your offer for wanting some extra help with the content, I'd be more than happy. I help friends that run other channels with some of their content from time to time, plus my own shit. So if you really want my help, just reach out to me.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't, pull a mundane Matt.
Oh God, please don't. Oh geez,
Yeah.
Mundane Matt. That whole thing drove me nuts. I had to rip him open too.
Yeah. Did you see Did you guys see the? I'm not sure who published the video. A couple of people mirrored it, where they had Mundane Matt in there in the hangout, where he eventually what do you call it? Admitted to false flagging people.
Yeah, and he was busy trying to clear out a bunch of the flags he had already done.
Yeah, I was actually watching
and
that.
he was going, oh yeah, well, I was going through some blah 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 blah. Yeah, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. That was painful. But then again, I've only, what was it? Over a year ago, I watched a couple of his videos, and I go, yeah, okay, yeah, that's kind of cool. But I kind of stopped watching his videos. So I have no interest in watching his videos ever. So
yeah, Matt.
just fell across his channel back then.
Matt's got some issues.
Mm-hmm.
And the bad thing is he was actually busted. He was actually busted for those issues, and then kept doing it.
Yeah, and using trying to use personal issues, saying, I think he said, I was going through some depression. I think he said.
Yep.
And that was the reason.
And then blamed it on his kid.
Yeah.
At least part of it.
Yeah, I refrain from putting my trust in that. His reasoning.
Yeah, that is kind of a dick thing.
If he did it once,
his number of views has gone shit too, and he's lost about 30,000 subs.
Yikes!
Oh, hasn't he? I didn't even care to.
He was at 186K when the damn thing blew up. He's got 150 now. At least that was the last time I looked.
Yeah, it will probably hurt some more once people start seeing those videos too. So. I mean, see that video. That is, but no. Back to going away from that kind of stupid. Jerry, I was thinking about the the red shirt thing. That I think it was Laura Reloaded who made that video. Doing some math, or for the English-speaking people, maths, about the red shirts and
Statistical analysis. Yes, I know. I see.
Yeah, exactly. That actually, red shirts are more likely to survive. I can't remember the specifics, but it's safer to be a red shirt in terms of dying on an away mission than not.
Per capita, more gold shirts die than red shirts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. When you look at it as purely per capita,
you just see a lot of red shirts die because there are. If you look at the crew, most of them were red shirts.
Yeah, that's why you shouldn't always just trust statistics. I mean, if you do it correctly, statistics doesn't lie, but they can be used to paint a not so
an errant
correct
picture.
Yeah,
Well,
what
in
about
this case, the statistics is giving you a clearer picture. Because you're seeing more people die who are red shirts, but that's just because there's a lot of red shirts.
But at the same time, he also used statistics to do a survivability index to rank the major captains of the Star Trek universe on who was the most deadly.
Yeah, and as I remember, it was Jean-Luc that became. He was on the top of.
Oh yeah, he was one of the most deadly.
Yeah.
Also, when does that not surprise me?
Right? Can't remember that part.
Kirk was decidedly more deadly than most.
Yeah, but who broke Starfleet rules the most?
Kirk.
And the prime, especially the Prime Directive.
Kirk
is the reason they have a Prime Directive.
No, Kirk is the reason they enforce the Prime Directive.
Oh yeah.
Archer's the reason they have the Prime Directive.
Hold on, they
Kirk
enforce
is the reason why they enforce it.
Yeah, I mean, enforcing it means that you get reprimanded at least, and hopefully get punished for breaking it.
I hate to pull this reference. But Star Trek number 4, The Voyage Home. At the end, Kirk does get reprimanded. He gets demoted from admiral to captain.
And they give him the Enterprise A.
That was a punishment.
Not breaking not breaking General Order number 1.
No, the real punishment that Kirk got at the end of Star Trek 4 was being given the Enterprise A.
Yeah, which is not actually a punishment. Not for him.
Oh,
anyway.
no. Look at all the issues that ship had, especially in Star Trek 5.
Okay, I'd like to deny Star Trek 5.
Why? Because Kirk directed it himself?
Although Kirk did have a really good question there. What does God need with a starship?
Mm-hmm.
No, a lot of people have issue with Star Trek 5 because Shatner was the one who directed it.
He also wrote it, and he starred.
Well, if that was the reason alone, fuck those guys.
Bad things.
Yeah.
Still love that Islamic State Air Force.
I'm actually not. I'm not seeing pictures here, so.
I'm watching the stream too.
Yeah, I know this is a weird curveball, but I'm throwing it anyway. 2 things. I recently read something about a certain type of vaccine in, was it England? I think it was. I'm not sure what country. A certain type of vaccine has been pulled because it contains elements from pigs and human tissue. That's just that. Yeah, that was just a one. Yeah, and guess what the majority of the religion is in that country? Muslim. Oh goddamn! What was the other one? Can't remember now. Fuck. I hate segues when I forget them midway. That really sucks. Damn it. Crap.
I like that one you posted in Discord there.
Which one?
Which one was
The
that?
one that Revenge's ice cream.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Revenge's edition is best served cold. It also says the Revenge is sweet. So Revenge is ice cream.
And speaking of, I just finished off some ice cream.
I might
I-
have.
I like-
I might actually remember the correct one I was thinking about earlier. A long time ago now, I saw a segment from from TV. I'm not sure if it was European or American. That an American ammunition, small firearms,
Fuck you. Ha
small arms producer in the U.S. Started making ammunition that was where the projectiles were laced somehow with bacon. So they where the idea, more or less as a gag, well, probably some of them took it seriously, that you could use those on ISIS members to really fuck up their afterlife.
Mhm.
I wonder if that is still a thing. Bacon laced ammunition to
Mm,
Well,
shoot
it was enough to
Muslims.
start the Indian Mutiny in the 1860s.
But I think it was small arms though, not for rifles.
No, because a rifle bullet would probably just burn off the bacon.
Yeah, but still, it would have been in contact with bacon. I mean, once you go bacon, you never leave. Okay, that was a stupid comment.
Bacon.
I actually
Yeah.
talking about bacon.
Bacon.
I found
Hey,
another
hey.
YouTube channel.
hey, just don't mention bacon around Tornado Pelt. He might get a little excited.
Actually,
But
we should do that just
he
to piss him
knows-
off.
Yeah, I know him well enough, but he knows that the only reason why people keep reminding him of it, because it's funny, because he acts up. He gets pissed, and he's vocal, very vocal about it every single time. So he knows he's feeding it himself.
Well, I've actually told him as much.
Yeah, but I've had okay, language barrier. So don't take it in the wrong way. I've had
Oh,
intimate
Jesus.
conversations with him on Discord.
Right.
Talk to him about things, and this is one of the things I've talked to him about. Not in depth, but still. But apparently it's very hard for him to just filter it out. Can't imagine
There
why.
you go. This is a live look at SeaTac right now.
Who? Coated in smoke.
Yeah,
Yummy.
they have a ground stop on arriving flights that have not departed due to the low visibility.
Uh-huh.
Yep. So, stop sharing that so Jared doesn't get a strike.
Yeah.
Well,
It was news. It was informative. We
it's-
were discussing it.
as long as it's transformative. And I always want to giggle when I hear that word. All I can think of is Transformers.
Oh, there goes the light rail.
I can't see.
Oh, I stopped sharing, and then all of a sudden the light rail goes right across the screen.
Whee!
Oh,
Well,
could
now
you-
we know. Well,
you can
at
make
least
it
now we know where the camera's positioned.
Yeah, I think it's
But-
actually. I think it was actually looking at the satellite terminal.
Yep.
That's generally where it
You,
looks at.
Jay, could you stick a link to that?
Yeah, it's the. Here we go. I'm gonna put it in the YouTube chat here.
Facebook. Oh man.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, it's the north end of the satellite terminal. I can make out an N. Looks like N6. Do we have an N6 anywhere? N6.
Bingo!
I was waiting for somebody to yell.
Ah, you guys are being
co-
way too strange today.
wait, we're being way too what?
Strange.
You do realize
You
what
mean
show
normal.
you're on, right?
Yeah, I know. I know.
I thought he meant normal.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
That's
Oh.
okay. We've got more strange in just over an hour. Actually, no, we've got stupid in just over an hour.
Yeah.
And there goes the light rail back going the other way.
We'll take strains for right now, stupids later.
Well, yeah, it was actually 222. So, Psystrike said earlier, literature, cinema, television, history? You guys are a well-versed group. My response, that's why I like my channel. We escape the stupid.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and not hit it head on.
Bacon says fact art.
What the hell?
Bacon.
Okay.
Hmm.
So I'm not allowed to go to king5.com's website.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Are they punishing me for not for being in a country where we actually take care of our citizens when they get sick, regardless of they? whether
No,
or
it's
not
the
they have-
EU not wanting you to see bad things.
They want to
Yeah,
protect
well,
your little minds.
They don't think you can handle it. Then again,
You
there are a
can't
lot.
handle the-
Then again, there are a lot of people in the Pacific Northwest who can't handle a lot of things.
Yeah, snowflake. This is
Yeah,
weird.
like the smallest bit of,
I don't want
smallest
that.
bit of potential offense.
I can't even
So many
access.
like,
Oh,
I can't even access king5.com. What the fuck? I mean, if it was the website,
just fine.
the actual link I was going
Oh.
for, fair
Mhm.
enough.
I'm gonna get blocked or is disconnected.
lights for rights, but well, it's just no access denied.
huh?
hold on.
That's
Well,
weird.
the link he posted was for Facebook.
Yeah, but I logged into yeah, that gives me a bad taste. I logged into Facebook because I have account because I have to, sadly, different reasons.
Here, try this.
And
Bo.
I can see it. I can see the King 5 live stream. I can see that just fine there. But when I try to access the king5.com website, no joy. Even the root king5.com, no joy.
Well, it is a news agency, so they probably don't want you learning about things
But I can
from the
see
far
it-
left media propaganda.
But I can see it via Facebook.
Yeah, I got an access denied as well. Maybe it's us Europeans.
There
Yeah,
could
and
be-
I don't want to.
There could be a route issue going on or something like that. Could affect something like that as well.
You don't have permission to access
Hmm.
king5.com on this server.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I could use my Unblock US, but that would mean losing the connection with you guys, and so that would be terrible for you.
Minor detail. Now, here's a question. Nim says in the chat, speaking of, Christina Blackfeather needs 17K for her surgery and recovery. What the fuck are you talking about? And should I
And
even
who
care?
is she?
Probably
Who-
not on the should
or
you
he?
care, but
Who is she?
Yeah.
Waiting for Nim to respond, because typical delay. And then him typing.
Apparently, she has a YouTube channel.
Type faster.
Yeah, she has a YouTube channel. I see.
Never heard of her, so I don't know.
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, here we go.
Yep.
I'm Christine, also known as Black Feather, and Christina Blackfeather. What? A Minnesota artist and pagan. I face paint. What?
There's
Okay.
What the?
Grammar. I face paint every year at Twin Cities Pagan Pride. Blah 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 blah.
Show more. There's a live feed. Okay, there's a live feed that's from Great Debate Gaming, where they're promoting her GoFundMe.
All right,
Okay.
In reference to the healthcare comment. All right. So
Oh, she's a nurse too. So
okay.
okay.
So
Okay.
what's the reason
Here-
for the?
Here, I'll put it in the side chat for us here. And that's the wrong link.
Well, here's my question. So if she's a nurse, if she is,
She's a nurse in Minnesota. They don't get paid a whole lot there.
oh no, I wasn't going to go there. If she's a registered nurse or an employee of the hospital, part of your benefits package is actually having a lot of your healthcare needs taken care of by the hospital you're an employee at.
Oh, I don't
with
think it's
no
for
pay.
her necessarily.
It may actually be that's what's that's the
Oh no, it
bill,
is for her. Okay, I see what it is.
or at least in part.
It's in part for her medical, her recovery, and also for her husband who has progressive MS.
Ah,
It's trying to cover her bases for her downtime.
okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Only by a lot.
Yeah, what it looks like what it is she's having a hysterectomy and some other things on October 4th. It's going to require 8 weeks of recovery. Longer if I have a lot of scar tissue and they have to cut me open. My job involves lifting, and this will keep me out of the field until the doctor clears me. My husband has primary progressive MS. We will be waiting for approval for pain medications for him. There are days he can't walk due to pain spikes, so his income fluctuates. So,
And there seems to be.
and she does not have short-term disability, and they have a $7,000 a year deductible with her insurance as well.
Oh, that's gonna.
Yeah.
There also seems to be a connection between her and Fiona Robertson. Apparently, I'm looking through her Christina's YouTube videos.
Oh.
There's
Well-
one from 2 months ago. My mom's last horse, 29-year-old Fiona Robertson. I have no idea what it's about. But...
No, and here's my commentary on part of that. If you are
Guys?
offered an avenue for short-term disability and you don't take it, you're an idiot.
Guys, I'm gonna clear off for a little bit.
Yep.
See you all for movie night.
After doing a
I
meditation
have to go deal with
sequence,
some children that
meditation-
are being stupid.
Well, yeah. Well,
And that
when thinking about who's the parent, it's yeah. I mean, squirrels are hyperactive buggers.
yes, they are. But so thinking about that is every job I've had after being in the Navy, short-term disability has been offered. I've never had to use it, but I've always had it available. And it is perfect for situations like what she's facing. And the majority of time, the monthly insurance cost for the short-term disability has been less than $10 a month. It actually, it is peaked this year at just over $6 a month. And the state I live in, it's a requirement. You have to have it if you are employed.
Forced, kind of like the what wasn't the Obamacare thing?
So
forced health insurance.
Well,
thing?
here's the
Or
thing.
is this connected anyway?
Here's the thing. No, short-term disability in the state that I live in is actually a state-funded. It is a state-managed thing. It's not an independent company-managed thing. So if you are a resident of this state and you are employed and work 30 hours or more, you don't have the option. It is already taken out of your paycheck, and it's not that much. But before I lived here, I lived in a neighboring state where it was an option. And you know what? I still took the fucking option because I work in a field where injuries happen. So, yeah, I'm going to want to make sure that my ass is covered.
I just can't help myself. Universal health care.
Well, and here's the thing, Bo. So short-term disability
I know.
covers you up to 90 days. It covers you for 3 months that you are out of work due to injury or health-related reason. At the 90-day mark, you then switch from short-term to long-term. And the two major employers that I've had, the long-term disability, the bill for that monthly premium is picked up by them. It does not come out of my pocket.
But who runs this? Is it the government, or
The
am
long
I just missing
term,
something here?
well, the long term is an offshoot of the health insurance, so that is privately managed. But in order to go on to the long term disability, you have to go through the short term disability time first, and it has to be confirmed that it actually is an injury that has been keeping you out of work for that amount of time. It does not have to be a work related injury, because that actually falls under a different program called workman's compensation, which means you were injured on the job for the job, and as a result cannot work until said issue is resolved.
So what I'm wondering about here is, where does the monthly payments go to?
It goes into the
Is it a
overall
fund?
it goes into the overall designated fund, just like any other insurance program. Like even you guys, the countries with universal health care, a portion of your taxes to the nation goes towards a fund just for medical insurance and medical expenses.
Well, no. Well, in Denmark, there's no fund. It's government. It's completely healthcare is completely funded by the state, by the government.
Yes.
It doesn't get put into a fund as such.
Now, the way the accounting
It's
works,
just part of it.
the way the accounting works, yes, it goes into the budget,
That way, yeah.
but the budget is actually broken up into the different areas. There is an area dedicated just for those expenses. So that's where I say a portion of your taxes go to that, no matter what.
Yeah, but your version of it, so to speak, is that it's not. There's no company that a private company that takes a small slice of that those payments.
So
Except for apart from administration.
the state
cost.
the state that I am in, the short term section of it, so the 90-day period from inability to work until day 90 through day 90, that is in the state that I live in, that is managed by the state, and the money that leaves my paycheck for the short-term disability is an entirely separate line item than my state taxes. But the long-term disability, which that is part of the benefits package of my overall insurance package with the company that I'm with. So that does not go to the state. That is an additional premium on top of my regular health insurance. Which in the health insurance bid is, it really strikes me that she has such a high deductible, because the plan that I chose, that I had available to me, my out-of-pocket maximum is just over $5,000. And
Are you single or are you family?
that's family.
Okay.
My out-of-pocket maximum as a single would still only be $3,000.
Okay.
But
Each
I'm using
insurance is different.
Yeah, well, and
Which
that's it.
sucks.
And that's the thing is, this is why I advocate for most people, do your research, and if you can, go with an HSA. That's what I have. So my biweekly premium is actually fairly low. And the way it works is I pay 100% of every medical bill until between myself, my wife, and her kid who's on the plan, until we reach $2,500. So half of our out-of-pocket max is entirely on us. Once we hit that first threshold, we now are only responsible for 20% of the bill, of any medical bill.
Right. Which that would cover basically what you're covering is your deductible out of pocket at first.
Yep.
Technically, I know how
Yeah,
HSA works, but
recommend anytime you have a high deductible plan like that, get a health savings account.
Oh yeah, and the way it works is my out of pocket is lower than my allowed maximum contribution to the HSA. So my money throughout the year for medical expenses is already taken care of. I don't have to worry about what's in my bank account for that because that's already there.
Yeah.
And because of that, and because it's not a lump sum at the beginning of the year that goes in, it's broken up through deposits throughout the year. When it comes to a larger medical bill, like the beginning of the year, I had a cortisone treatment in my back. The total out-of-pocket cost for that was just shy of $2,000. And because it was early in the year, I was responsible for the out-of-pocket cost for the entirety of the bill after the insurance adjusted prices. Because there wasn't $2,000 in the HSA account, well, we set it up for monthly payments to finish throughout the year. But because a payment agreement was reached, that total amount went towards my out-of-pocket total at the beginning. So as other bills came in, well, a couple bills later, hey, we're at the first threshold. So now instead of paying 100%, we're paying 20%.
Right.
Once that
Yeah,
20%, then once that 20%, we've reached the $5,000 max out of pocket. From that point, from that dollar on, is paid entirely by the insurance company.
So basically, what you're doing at the first of the year in this situation is you're putting your HSA on a credit loan by you paying it off monthly.
Yep.
Throughout the year.
Because of the.
No, I understand why you do it. I'm not.
Yeah. Well, that is essentially the way it worked out on that one. But over time, like in a couple years, there's going to be that. And here's a nice thing with an HSA versus a flex spending account. HSA, any money that's left after I hit my out-of-pocket max, it stays in there.
It rolls over to the next year.
It rolls over. So you can... It continually rolls over. It's not money that's lost. A flexible spending account, an FSA, you have to use that money within the allotted time, or you lose anything over $500 left in the account.
Yeah, about a few years ago, I had done a high deductible plan, and then when I had renewed a few years back, I had changed to low deductible. I had a health savings account with it.
Yeah.
I still have it. I'm still pulling money out of it now and then for medical stuff because there's so much that went into it.
Yeah.
But at a low deductible, I'm only petering a little bit out here and there, so it's kind of like basically not currently costing me anything for me.
The only thing that we have to pay for here on our own dime is medicine. Prescription drugs, for example. There is a what would you call it? A rebate system going, where until you reach a certain amount of money paid for prescription drugs, you have to pay for it for everything. But at a certain point, you start to get a percentage where you get where the government pays 25% of your bill, and it progresses in 4 different steps, I think it is. And for me, I have a what do you call that? A chronic, what do you call it? I'm not sure what to call it in English. A chronic account, or whatever it would be called, where I have to pay a maximum of $615 per year. That's an absolute maximum. I won't I can't possibly be paying more than that. Everything more than anything more than that, the government takes takes up the bill.
Yeah, that's similar to
And that's good because but this system resets every year, and it starts the day you get that you buy something from the pharmacy that's on prescription. And I'm really happy for that, because if that system wasn't there, and I wasn't awarded this chronic thing there, I would be paying enough for a shitload of money, especially in Denmark. I mean, everything is, yeah. Americans, if you think that stuff is expensive, regardless of what it is you want to buy, try coming to Denmark. That's just ridiculous. I mean, let's see. What did last year? I went up to, what was it? 38,000. What is that? Yeah, my medicine bill. If I had to pay for it myself, that would come to about $5,900 per year. If I didn't have this system, still you can't really compare it, because we have a lot higher prices than you do, and we have a higher sales tax and everything. But still,
well,
that's the only thing that we have to pay for on our own dime that isn't covered by our taxes.
Well, and what I would say to that, to get some people to understand, is yes, your taxes are higher, but at the same time, you're not paying an insurance premium. Whereas when you look at a lot of people here in the U.S., if you were to, instead of paying an insurance premium, put that as an additional deduction and lump it in with your federal taxes, it wouldn't be as high of a percentage for most people, but it would still put it on par with what you guys in the EU have taken out for taxes that also covers the health expenditures. So that's one of the things. It's the amount of money, the percentages coming out is still roughly the same. It's just, instead of it going all to the government to control those things, some of it's going to the government in taxes here in the U.S., and then the rest of it is going to third-party insurance agencies for the medical stuff. So the overall, it's still going to hit you. It's just a question of how is the payout happening.
Yeah, and in my case, I don't have to fight tooth and nail with an insurance company to get them to pull out the wallet. I would imagine. I mean, whatever kind of insurance if you make a claim, usually that's a global issue. I think you really have to fight to actually get what you are owed, so to speak.
See, and I personally, the only issue that I've had when it has come to that was actually while I was in the military, and TRICARE, the company that does the medical insurance for the military for the dependents of active members, they were dicking around about a follow-up for my son, that technically they were risking his vision over a matter of $50.
I wonder how what the administrative costs were in that incident. I mean, for them.
When I was dealing with them, this was after the second time they rejected the follow-up. I was on the phone with them and I was like, why does it keep getting rejected? And the person let it slip that the code that it got rejected for was travel cost. And so at the time, I was stationed in Oak Harbor, which is a couple hours north of Seattle. the provider that my son needed to see was down at the Joint Base in Tacoma, Washington. And because of the distance, for me to take my son to go to that appointment, TRICARE had a stipend to pay me to cover the travel of $50. They did not want to pay that. That is the only reason why they were trying to reject the appointment. When I got a hold of the provider afterwards, he was like, "Oh no, fuck them. I'm making the appointment myself. I'll see you on this day."
So how far that was that, or more more relevant?
Give me
What
just
would
a second here.
those expenses be? And by the way, if it's a long enough trip, possibly during the
it's
time
not
of
bad.
day that you would normally eat a meal, would that also be covered and so on?
Well, that's part of why they do the $50 minimum travel stipend, because I want to say it was just a couple miles outside of the radius where they wouldn't have had to, but because of the distance and the region, it was a couple hours down there, a couple hours back. So there's 4 hours
Okay, fair enough.
plus the time there at McCord.
Madigan.
Yeah, at Madigan. It was
Okay.
the actual.
It's about 136 miles ish.
Yeah, because what I was thinking is, okay, $50. Let's say $25. Per trip. You have to go back as well. That would get you very far. I mean, if you have a car and you only need money for fuel and, well, human fuel,
Yeah.
that would get you really far.
Yeah, at the time, it was just annoying because it was like, okay, so this is with a pediatric optometrist who specializes in dealing with kids who were born premature, which my son was. He was born literally days after viability. And
Ooh.
you don't want to approve the appointment because you don't want to pay the travel down there? Fuck you. So,
But did they just deny, or did they try to wiggle their
No.
way out of
No,
the contract? Or
no,
how?
they were denying the request for the follow-up for the appointment because
Based on.
based on them not wanting to pay out the travel claim.
Yeah, I would love to know how that would go.
Oh,
I mean,
It's basically
you're paying for a service. Now you're claiming that service under the contract that was signed. How would they go about doing that? Wiggling excusing themselves of
Normally-
not having to pay for it.
normally they could generally find somebody that could, in the immediate area closer to Jared at that time. They could just say, no, you need to go see this specialist who might not be as qualified as the person down at Madigan.
On the street.
That's generally why they would deny something like that. However, they were just doing it in spite because they don't want to pay for him to have to drive basically 6 hours both ways to go.
Okay. Well, in Denmark, within reason, we have a system where if you need an operation, not emergency operation, but a scheduled, what do you call it? A routine operation or a medical procedure. You have the right to choose what hospital that you want to use, provided that that specific hospital does that type of treatment. And if you are in a physical state that means that you cannot travel, by car,
By
bus,
your own
plane,
means.
train. Yeah, by your own means, not for monetary reasons, but because of the health reasons. you have the right to be transported for free to the hospital that you want. You can't just go willy-nilly, that one. You have to provide a reasoning for why. That it could be just as simple as, well,
Preferred provider.
No, because there's only one provider.
Well,
The state.
no. By provider, I mean the actual doctor providing the services. This is my preferred physician for this service. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah, but even just the reasoning for, I mean, if let's see, a number of years ago when I had my second hernia operation, if I wanted to, I could have said, well, I want my operation in Copenhagen because I need when I need to recuperate after the operation, I have some family over there that can take care of that, have the time to and space to take care of me after it. That would have been a sufficient cause for me to get it granted.
Sorry,
And if it's a long enough trip, I do believe a modest amount of food is also included, but I'm not sure about that one. It's a very small country I live in. So I mean,
all right. Jared, I gotta share this job qualifications that you might find funny. It's a public records specialist for the Department of Corrections in Washington State.
All right, let's see this. Interesting.
Yeah.
But it kind of makes sense though when you think about the
No,
job.
it does. I mean, my biggest thing is I'm just sitting here like, yeah, I probably shouldn't apply because I will probably be laughing my ass off every time I read something.
Well, as long as you're not laughing at the person.
While they're there, yeah, that's the problem. I served on submarines. That filter is not exactly there all the time.
Willing to review information that may contain violent and/or sexually explicit information. Okay, what's the problem with that?
It's laughing at people when they're standing in front of you.
Oh, wait, you mean I can't make fun of the dumb motherfucker?
I'm actually already very good in that. I do, in fact, work in human resources currently. So.
I'm sorry, sir, if you took it the wrong way. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you. Wink,
hold on. I gotta go back and pull that one up here. In order to have a job in the federal government, let's see here. Gotta go back and find it here. And in North Carolina, in the field that I'm going to school for, public relations, they have where is it? Next page. Where was it? Because I looked at it. Where did it go? Here we go. All right. Let's screen share this, okay? All right, so public affairs specialist, social media, starting at 63.
Huh.
And I'm like, that's right up my alley. That's, what I'm doing now. The requirements. All right. You must have 1 year specialized GS9. Okay, that's fine, whatever. Or have successfully completed a PhD or equivalent doctoral degree or 3 years of progressively higher graduate level education. To basically be a social media poster. Yeah. Public affairs specialist, social media. I have to have a PhD or at least 3 years in graduate school.
What about a degree in no, I shouldn't say that. No.
Women's studies.
Yeah, something to that effect. Communication studies or whatever it's called.
That's what I'm going to school is communications, but it's specifically focusing on the public relations aspect of things.
Well, PR, that's a totally different thing than what I was thinking about. The snowflake related education.
I know the social justice, the gender studies, the women's studies. Yeah.
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 But still, a fucking PhD to do that job? Really?
Yeah.
Well, to weed, maybe
Well,
in order to
it-
weed out the hacks.
I will say this. In defense, it is on an army base. You know, they want to make sure they have the smartest people on social media. Because you're not going to find anybody like that in anywhere in the ranks in the army at all. So
Yeah, but they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot with that one. Although I think what they're mainly hoping for on that one is actually promote from within kind of thing, where
Yeah.
because of that whole time as a GS9.
yeah,
But still, what the fuck?
yeah.
And people wonder why those of us who have dealt with the government and the military firsthand are a special breed.
Well, my favorite is every time I find a job that sounds interesting within the federal government, I go and look at it. And I'm just like, okay, you're paying a decent, you're paying the base salary wage of any other company for a public relations person, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you want to basically pay somebody who can go out and get 6 figures for that PhD, and you only want to pay them 5 figures.
Yes. Yeah. No. And that's where
Yeah.
they're really not going to get the attention they want, and they're going to have to adjust those standards accordingly.
Oh, I know. And if they've had it, sometimes they'll have it like leveled out, where it's like, okay, we're actually hiring for GS5, GS7, GS 9.
Mm-hmm.
And on the GS5, almost always I qualify for it, with maybe the exception of actual a degree in a certain situation. But
You keep
every
saying
time
something that makes me think of Jadzia Dax, and it kind of sounds like you say DS9 a lot.
oh GS9.
Yeah, he's going off into his fantasy realm, which I think I think is a good place to head before dealing with the stupid that begins in about a half hour. So with that, for everyone who's watched us and stayed with us to this point, what the fuck is wrong with you? Don't you have... No, I kid. Because actually we do cover quite the bevy of topics here, and we actually do it in an intelligent manner. And now, in a half hour, go over to Psy Strike's movie night and watch us deal with the stupid in an intoxicated manner.
Wait, let me see if I can pull up the link.
Extremely concentrated stupid level.
Yeah.
Weaponized.
As I just
Weaponized stupid.
replied to Nim.
Real quick,
Nim in the chat says, "Damn, my wording sucks tonight." Well,
sorry, folks, I'm gonna buzz the tower just for a brief second. Science Strike,
what?
guys want to, if he should hold movie night and hold off on movie night until we're done here.
Oh, we're wrapping up right now anyways.
All right, then I'll tell him the answer is no.
No, because honestly, 3.5 hours is decently long enough, especially with the number of topics that we've covered so far tonight. And for those of you who are new, subscribe, hit the bell notification. That way, if it decides to work, you'll know when we go live next week.
Yeah.
Gotta love
And here's
the
the link to
Tubes.
Psy Strike. All right, just posted the link to go to Psy Strike's movie night.
Awesome. All right. And with that, have a good night.